What is going on, guys? Welcome to the ASTROLABE. I am Matt. This show is brought to you by King Pilled, sponsored by the King Pilled Discord, kingpilled.com. Go join us tonight. Tonight, I'm going to tell you guys this multiple times because I'll say it now for the early birds, and then as more people wander their way in, tonight is Friday night, and that means we are going to be in the King Pilled Discord voice chat later tonight after the Labe. If you want the show to go on, if you want the party to continue, you're enjoying your time in the live chat, then come join the King Pilled Discord at kingpilled.com. We will be continuing our watching of The Apprentice, the original series from 2004. We get to see our president before he was our president. It was fun last time. Whoever wants to come join us, it'd be great to have you. We'll chit chat and enjoy a good Friday evening together. Bring your beverage of choice, and we'll have a good time. So kingpilled.com is the place to go for that. I appreciate those of you who hit up the Buy Me a Coffee link over the last couple of days. I see you. You are recognized. You are appreciated. Deeply appreciated from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys for what you're doing to support what I am doing so I can keep bringing you guys these shows and continue building what we're building in the background to bring you even more. So there's Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. There's a Cash App link. Kingpilled.com. You can also go to the Kingpilled Substack and you can subscribe over there. You don't have to be a paying subscriber to get access to all the links that I do on the show. I just provide those for free. But as soon as I finish the show today, I'll be setting it up on Substack and getting it posted there. So you guys can go access all of the links that we go through today. Ninja of Spades says, so hard not to give you my money. Well, I'm glad I'm making it hard on you. Wits has joined the Discord. Wit's in there. There's a few of you guys I see in here. Slutty Milk is in there. Georgie Castrati, he's in there. Airing you guys out. How you guys doing? It's the end of the week. It's a beautiful day out here in South Central Texas. It's like, I don't know, upper 70s, nice breeze, clear skies, sunny. It's very, very nice. Almost feels like Southern California. I got some good stuff for you guys today. This interview series that the All In podcast is doing, they started with Scott Bessent, and then they dropped their interview with Howard Lutnik. And the Bessent one was terrific. The Lutnik one may have been even better. I still don't know entirely what to think of Lutnik because there's been some stuff that he's done and said that maybe gives me pause, but he is saying all the right stuff, and he is a compelling guy to listen to. It's the whole podcast was an hour and 44 minutes, and that wasn't because they were dragging him through subjects he didn't want to talk about or something. No, they were the ones that had to keep the show moving because the dude just wants to talk all the time. He definitely seems like a bit of an egomaniac, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And I'll play you guys some clips today that will show you just how, well, number one, just how close to the target our little corner of the internet has been. If you've been listening to Jason and myself and Pete and Stormy and Tom Luongo and Luke Groman, and there's a little ecosystem of podcasts here that we've been circling around a lot of these issues: the sovereign wealth fund and the Bitcoin strategic reserve and Listian economics. And it seems as if this is the perspective of the administration. So there's some very great things happening. And we'll get into that with I got a bunch of Howard Lutnick clips today. And then let's see, what else do I got? I got some more stuff on this this domestic terrorism effort. Sure to get the stream demonetized. Let's say terrorism. First thing. It's just past the 5-minute marks. Maybe I'm safe. But just saying terrorism and repeatedly saying terrorism, I'm sure is demonetizing the stream as if it wasn't going to be demonetized anyways. But we'll talk about some Tesla terrorism. We've got a very good executive order that was just signed yesterday about minerals and developing the mineral wealth of the United States. So we'll talk about that also in the context of the Sovereign Wealth Fund and the Howard Lutnick clips. And then just got some odds and ends stories here. A couple of clips from J.D. Vance, our vice president himself, talking about what differentiates him from Kamala Harris as the vice president, and then talking about his favorite rare Vances. Someone actually got him on the record now discussing it. So we'll talk about that. We got a new meme format that is blowing up. A woman fell on her face after trying to grab a MAGA hat from a man's head in New York. We'll talk about that. And then some other fun little odds and ends stories. But we also have a bonus video from Paul Suda. He did a bonus recap video for week 9. Reinforcements have arrived. So we'll get to that one here in just a minute. But before we do that, got a little bit of slop. Got to do some slop. So let's celebrate our white boys with this one. Hit the like button, folks. Let's get going.
Hey, let's make Because I Got High country. You ready?
All right.
I was gonna bale some hay today and fix up my truck. Yeah.
I was gonna sit in the woods and find me a 12-point bud.
Ooh. But now the cattle ain't got no grain and the corn ain't shucked. Yeah.
Because I got drunk.
Because I got drunk.
Because I got drunk.
Tell it to him now.
I was gonna plug that hole in my boat, but then it sunk.
Ooh. I was gonna take my girl on a date and maybe make a little love. Yeah.
But now she won't even kiss me on the cheek. I think I really messed up.
Yeah, because I got drunk.
Because I got drunk.
Because I got drunk. Yeah, I'll mix some coke with my rum.
Found me some bud.
Yeah, we got drunk. Woo!
We love our Barstool Americans. And then this one here, this is one of those that everyone and their mom sent over to me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for hitting me up with all this stuff. It helps me. Number one, it helps you put the show together, and also gives me a read on the sorts of things you guys are paying attention to. This one here from Jack McPherson. We may never witness a generational run like 2000 to 2008 had ever again. The caption on the video here says, POV, you grew up cool. This is speaking directly to my born in 1988 soul.
It's like suffocating. Much like suffocating. Much like suffocating. Much like suffocating. Much like suffocating.
Oh, I want to watch it again.
Much like suffocating. Much like suffocating. Much like suffocating.
Oh, Wit says my generation. Slutty Milk says my childhood. Ninja of Spades says we're the same age. Look at that. Millennial occupied government. Here we come. Shout out to my millennials out there. Now this one here, this is a very unique corner of the internet. And I'm going to play the video for you guys and then go through the comments because the comments had me cracking up earlier. So Jimmy McIntosh says, obsessed with this guy. He wakes up and spends 2 hours doing absolutely nothing of note. Look at this. Look at this absolute specimen. keep track of the times here and like the spaces between some of the times. Just watch that as we go. This is one of those that you'll want to, if you're just listening to the YouTube version here, you want to sit and watch the screen. You want to see what's happening.
So we're going to be serious about the Lord's business.
So looking at it, bro, we got to go ahead and get in at least 10,000. Thank you.
After all of that, then hearing his voice just had, well, not the voice I expected, but after hearing it, I was like, yeah, I probably should have expected that. So the comments in here. Jimmy McIntosh says, his 3:50 a.m. wake-up routine, startlingly similar to my 11 a.m. hangover one. Wander around, have a glass of cold water, stare into space, watch rot on my phone. And then this one. I said to pay attention to the timestamps. He spends 4 minutes in midair. So he goes launching off the edge at 7:36, and he hits the water at 7:40. Let me be clear. He's very cool. This nigga just spent 20 minutes drinking water on the balcony. Don't let the physique fool you. This is very feminine behavior. Yes. This bro thinks he invented puttering and dilly-dallying. Big fan of dunking my head in a bowl of ice water from 5:30 to 6 a.m. MF is on page 1 of his notebook. This is like LeBron. Every time LeBron shows up in the locker room and he's sitting there reading a book about like Malcolm X or something, he's always on the first page. Rookie mistake, bro. Let's see. This person says the vid is a bit annoying, but he's doing light workout, meditating, journaling, and probably writing up his day, watching some religious content, etc., etc. Not a bad routine. Yeah, honestly, the routine isn't that bad. But the recording of it, think about the amount of time that it would take to sit there and set up the camera, get it all positioned, make sure it's framed right, do the thing. If it doesn't look quite right, go back and do it again. And then, like that's part of the reason why there's such his routine takes him so long is because he gets up at 3:50 and then it's like what 9:30 when he hits his work call supposedly. Yeah, that's because three of the hours were spent moving the camera around, setting up. Imagine going around and like you go to the apartment pool in the morning and there's some dude over there like setting up a camera on a tripod. And he walks over and he like checks his framing. And then he goes back and he's like, okay, yeah, right there. And then goes back. Okay. And then he gets it recording. He runs over, he dives in, swims, goes around, turns it off again. He's got to do all of this. And then he's got to sit and he's got to edit every last bit of that. He's going to have tons of extra B-roll he's got to get rid of. Every single time he walks through a door, he's got to go set up a camera facing the door and then go out, get it recording, go out, close the door behind him, walk down, turn around, walk through the door, make it try to seem all natural. That's creepy. But yeah, the routine itself is honestly not bad. It's just so there's nobody who's actually getting on a call and doing stuff with people like that who's also doing this kind of routine. Like, there's nobody out there who's getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and spending 6 hours on a morning routine and then hopping on a business call at 9 with someone serving you your food and like you put your face in the. There's no one who's actually doing that. He's literally just employing people to do this for his influencer thing. And I guess I'm like, I don't know, if this motivated someone to be like, oh, I want to be like him, so I'm going to get up and I'm going to start doing all this stuff. That's great. That's cool. But you got to realize that you're not going to do it like he does, because this is like a fictionalized performance. And maybe the best thing it would do is it would inspire someone to develop their own morning routine. All right, let's get us some Paul Suda. Josh Ham says, come on, Matt, that dude has 4 days in a 24-hour period. His first day is from 4 to 9. There you go. There's a way to think about it. All right, Paul Suda. Reinforcements have arrived. Oh, yeah.
عددا من المجازر، حيث أدى هذا العدوان إلى استشهاد وجرح العشرات في حصيلة غير نهائية. وردا على هذا العدوان نفذت القوات المسلحة بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية نوعية استهدفت من خلالها حاملة الطائرات الأمريكية USS هاري ترومان والقطع الحربية التابعة لها شمالي البحر الأحمر، وذلك ب18 صاروخا باليستيا ومجنحا وطائرة مسيرة في عملية مشتركة نفذتها القوة الصاروخية وكذلك سلاح الجو المسير والقوات البحرية.
Your mission is simple. Knock out all fortifications, eliminate all non-troops, and establish a beachhead by building your base. Good luck.
The Grand Trade Center in Vienna was the 17th urban bombing in 4 weeks, blamed on NOD terrorists.
Yes, power shifts more quickly than some people think. I am Kane.
As the GDI forces take off in another NOD assault, the free world will be spread. Greg Burdett, WWN, somewhere in the Mediterranean.
People in our country illegally can self-deport the easy way, or they can get deported the hard way, and that's not pleasant. The Biden administration exploited the CBP-1 app to allow more than 1 million aliens to illegally enter the United States. Now my administration is launching the CBP Home app to give people in our country illegally an easy way to leave now and self-deport voluntarily. If they do, they could potentially have the opportunity to return legally at some point in the future. But if they do not avail themselves of this opportunity, then they will be found, they will be deported, and they will never be admitted again to the United States, ever again. You're never coming in.
DoorDash for deportations. I love it. What's up, Ian Carroll? He made it here. Mark Metz. Mark Metz says, the real reason the morning show turned into a night show, Matt has to complete his morning routine first. You got me. Damn it. $10 super chat from Slosher. Unit ready. Oh, man. That took me back. Oh, okay. You guys are cracking me up in here. Let's see what you were saying. So you're talking about Arabic. Listening to that dude talk got my missile launching fingers itching. Georgie Castrati says Arabian is just Italian with no pork. And Joe Mackey says in Arabic, all the hand motions are in the throat. That's so good. Miranchuk now said Arabs must be tired all the time. That language is exhausting. Oh, yeah. Then we got another thing here from Paul Suda. We're going to keep beating this drum. So John Kennedy, the senator, who we love our John Kennedy, but he missed the mark on this one. He says the government shouldn't force taxpayers to subsidize NPR and PBS. They need to learn to compete with everybody else. And I can appreciate the spirit behind this, given as NPR and PBS are today. Yes, the government absolutely shouldn't force taxpayers to subsidize that. We shouldn't be forcing taxpayers to subsidize gay shit. However, as Paul Suda points out, narrative supremacy, he says, no. You brainless dinosaurs. Take/purged NPR and PBS. Force your enemies to fund your propaganda. Make their kids hate them. Colonize their very imaginations. How do you think the enemy dominated the culture for so long? The free market? Pathetic. We must colonize the arts. We need our guys getting government contracts to produce media and news commentary. That's when we know we're winning. Shout out to Paul Suda. Go follow him. Paul_Suda on Twitter. I can't believe I didn't think of this when we were talking about this Giza Plateau story the other day, but this meme has been going around for a while. And isn't it wild that the meme is reality? There actually is a bunch of construction going down 2 kilometers underneath the pyramids. That's all I have. I scrolled across this the other day after I talked about it on the show, and I was like, holy crap! How are the memes predicting the future? I wonder what else. I wonder what other memes like this are actually real. What future predictions do we have on our hands, but we just don't know it yet? Some more Leaf Bucks, this time from Qwerty. He says, Slosher, why you Smeagol by our scrap appointment? Make Canada a kingdom again for king and country. All right, Canucks. I don't understand what language you're speaking, but tone it down. We don't need we're about to have a Canadian nationalist party in the live chat of the Astrolabe. Can't have that. That can't be done. We've got a country to purchase first. Thank you for the super chats, guys. This story here, a pilot canceled a flight to Hawaii because he wasn't feeling it. Ben Braddock makes the excellent point. Having safe air travel depends heavily on having this type of guy in the captain's chair. So notice the characteristics of the pilot who makes this call.
The aircraft is being observed so to speak, because oil pressure on the number 2 engine is trending upwards, and the aircraft is going to require, actually it's the fuel pressure, fuel system filter replacement when the aircraft gets back from Hawaii. They've told us that the plane's good to go, but I'm not really feeling it. I'm not going to leave the ground if I'm not completely certain that we have an airworthy aircraft, so I'm going to probably err on the side of caution, and I'm refusing the aircraft. So what that means for you right now, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if we have another airplane here at the airport, but I hate to do this to you, but this is one of those tough calls that I have to make, and I feel a lot more comfortable making this call than flying 6 hours over the water.
Give that man a raise. Promote him. Do whatever you need. It'd be a downer to get yourself boarded onto the airplane and then have to shuffle off and figure out what's going to happen. But I would much rather have that than, fuck it, let's just go. For our sports ballers out there, we've got, one of the signs of the vibe shift was when, so for a long time it was like nobody could say anything that could even be remotely construed as positive toward Trump or anything affiliated with Trump in public without running the risk of having their career ended. We lived like this for years. And then the vibe shift really became noticeable when you saw more and more public figures who were at the very least speaking neutrally about him, coming out and making statements that treated him like he was a person and he wasn't, like Satan incarnate come to enslave us all. Now, it's gone into a whole new world that is not remotely prepared for any sort of MAGA sentiment. And this is the U.S. soccer world. So the U.S. men's national team just got a new manager. The most high-profile one they've had yet, Mauricio Pochettino, who is, I believe, let me double check. I believe that he is from Argentina. Let me just double check that real quick. Yeah. So he's from Argentina, and very well known, one of the most well respected coaches in world soccer. And he, in an interview, said this, and this is I was wandering around in lib Twitter for a little while, which for me is overwhelmingly sports ball stuff, NFL, MLS, global soccer. And they were very, very, very upset about this.
Hope our president invite the national team. I invite myself to, yes.
Does he know how to say your name yet? Did you hear his attempt at saying your name?
No, because I think it's more focused in another more important thing than soccer or football.
Although he did have Infantino last week.
Yes, I saw.
The context here is this is one of the I think it's the FIFA president, or like the president of global soccer. And the broader context here is that the World Cup is coming to the United States in 2026. And I'm preparing you guys now. There is going to be, this administration is going to make a big deal out of it because it's going to correspond to the 250th anniversary. And it's a huge revenue draw. You get all the different teams and everything coming in and all the different games happening and ticket sales and hotels. And so there's the potential for a big revenue draw. And if they're smart, and I know they are, they're going to really start leaning into the patriotism associated with the men's soccer team. And we're going to get a revival in patriotism for our national athletes and sports. Remember the old days when you'd tune in and you'd watch the Olympics because you're going to go cheer for all the Americans. Screw the Russians or the Swedes or, the Kenyans or whoever. Nah, The Americans are going to win. And, oh yeah, speaking of astrolabe, it kind of does look like an astrolabe. And I think this is going to be fantastic. Now, what's funny with this is that U.S. soccer fandom is probably the most libbed out of all of the sports for obvious reasons. But we're coming for them. We're going to take that over.
With Infantino, and Infantino say, oh, USA can win the World Cup.
I was going to ask you about
because the president asked us,
yes,
we can win.
Yeah.
Maybe he need to ask me directly, no, than to Infantino, because I don't believe that Infantino can say 3, 4 names of our player, no?
Pretend I'm President Trump.
He's always saying that the FIFA guy probably wouldn't be able to name any of the players on the Americans.
And if I asked you if you could win the World Cup, what would your answer be to him?
Yes.
Yes.
I will say yes. If he asks me, I say yes, President. With your help, with the fans in behind, hosting the World Cup, all is possible.
So we've got a major soccer coach, not just neutral toward the president, but yes, Mr. President, with your help, we can win. This is gonna be wild to see. Josh Ham says World Cup in the USA. OMG. America is going to become the biggest soccer fans in the world. There'll be fight songs, chants, and riots like foreigners never imagined. We'll show them the real Anglos. That's right. Oh, the hooliganry is going to be epic. The shithousery. It's going to be so good. We've got some epic shithousers on the Americans, on the US team. Shithousing is basically like, it's like trolling on the soccer field, trying to get in your opponent's head. It's going to be so much fun. Mark Metz says, go get your girl Mina on the right side of the shift. Yeah, man. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. That's been kind of a funny story that kicked up over the last couple days. Mina Kimes over at ESPN used to be friends with her. She was part of our the Seahawks blogosphere Twitter world, which is where I spent most of my time 15 years ago. We both kind of came up in the same little media world there, and then she went on up into the stratosphere, and I left the sports media world. But we were friends once upon a time, and now I have a feeling she probably wouldn't talk to me. Most of my friends back then wouldn't. Oh, a Crew fan. Witt says the hooligan life is great. Let's go Columbus Crew. Well, I do like me some Wilfred Nancy. All right, let's I've given you guys, we've got to give the sports ball stuff in little drips here. I know that there isn't a lot of tolerance for it among some of you, so I'll only subject you to it a little bit. I missed this one. Shout out to Bryce for putting this one on my radar. This is the new deputy press secretary for the Pentagon calling out the ADL for promoting a Jewish child rapist. Somebody pinch me. This is Kingsley Wilson at Kingsley Cortez, which I did go confirm. She is the deputy press secretary for the Pentagon. She quote tweeted the ADL's Leo Frank tweet. It said, Leo Frank raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl. He also tried to frame a black man for his crime. The ADL turned off the comments because they want to gaslight you. Whew! Now, this was in, I don't know what date her tweet was. This tweet here, the ADL's tweet, was in August of 2024. So this may have been before she actually took the job. But the collapse of the post-Nuremberg order is coming hard and fast. And there's a lot of people who are not prepared for it. And it's going to get way out ahead of them before they know what to do with themselves. Josh Ham says, any excuse for Americans to shit on foreigners is an easy layup. Sports ball Americans like shitting on foreigners almost as much as we enjoy flexing on the poors. Winning is the most American mindset. Yes. That's and it's just so good for community spirit, rallying around your team, and it's practice. Shitting on foreigners, like shitting on the other team, is practice for shitting on foreigners. And so, like, as the politically aware people move themselves out of the sports ball world, then that means the only people who are getting experience, they're flexing the muscles of shitting on the other guy the way you do with like a sports rivalry. It's only the shit libs left in there. Now there's lots of non-shit libs who are fans, but they're afraid to be really out as anything but a shit lib, especially in sports like soccer. And it is a damn shame if American sports are taken over and dominated by shit lib culture. That is a repudiation of us. That's a condemnation of us that we have allowed that to happen. Speaking of sports, 7-foot WWE legend Kane challenges Tim Walz to charity wrestling match after the governor claimed he can kick Trump supporters' ass. Jack Posobiec and Clay Travis have both already pledged $10,000 in donations if it happens. Oh, I love that they're now holding these people's feet to the fire. So, look at his face. After Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said he believes he can kick most Trump supporters' ass in a fight, WWE legend Kane has challenged the Democratic politician to just that. Kane, whose real name is Glenn Jacobs, is now a mayor in Knox County, Tennessee. The 7-foot-tall athlete who weighed in at 300 pounds during the prime of his career challenged Walz to a charity wrestling match on Thursday. Please, I need to see this. Someone force the man. This is what Kane tweeted, all joking aside, at Tim Walz. Let's put our money where our mouth is in a charity wrestling match. We'll split the gate 50-50 between our chosen organizations. I'll kick things off with a $10,000 donation. What do you say? And the Walz made the comments on California Governor Gavin Newsom's podcast. At the time, he said he thought that Trump supporters were scared of him. I think I could kick most of their ass. I know I can outrun them. I don't know if we're going to fall into that place where we challenge you to, a WWE fight here type of thing. Just absolutely sticking his foot in his mouth. Human Events host Jack Posobiec said he would donate $10,000 to see the match go through. And then Clay Travis says, I'll put up $10K on this as well. The comments from the Minnesota governor, who also ran on the Democratic ticket for vice president alongside Kamala Harris, have been ripped up and down by Republicans, including President Donald Trump.
Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, I think I could kick most of their ass.
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser. Yeah, I mean, he's a loser. He lost an election. He played a part. Usually a vice president doesn't play a part, they say. I think Tim played a part. I think he was so bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe hurt them both. They didn't have a great group, but I would probably put him at the bottom of the group.
He's a loser. And then Ron DeSantis got in on it as well. He said Florida could serve as the neutral site host. We've got a lot of great spots and a lot of wrestling fans. Now he's just going to have to back his way out of it, because there's no way he can actually go through with that. The only, he would look like an absolute pipsqueak next to Kane, and then it would be obvious that Kane's just taking it easy on him. It'd be the most emasculating, humiliating thing that he could do, and that's saying a lot for Tim Walz, Mr. No Balls Walz. You could just call people losers. That's right, the Iceman. Okay, so here's the source for the new meme format, and then I'll give you guys some examples of them. This is one of the worst places you could ever go, the subway in New York City. This dude's there. Shout out to the dude on the subway in New York City wearing a MAGA hat, and a little scene developed.
That's why he won. People like you. That's why he won. That is why he won, because of people like you who need to stop and let him live. Bro, this is good. Chill, bro. You're okay with that? He's a racist. Bro, how can I be racist, bro? He's a racist. If you fucking voted for Trump, you're a racist. He's a racist. How can I be racist? No, he's not. Leave him alone. Doesn't watch the news. You realize he was highly educated. Oh, are you? Then why are you wearing that hat? Everything's going up for I don't know how long. The Democrats have been running New York since who knows how long. But then Trump comes in and just takes over. All right, well, this is my stuff. I hope you enjoy the hat.
Here it comes. Boom!
That's why he won.
Oh, shout out to the young king. Here you go. From Paul Suda, The Good Guys, and Con Inc. And then Mr. Miranchuk, the ADL and the post-Nuremberg narrative. And Paul Suda again, Disney, and making a Disney movie. Oh, man. Shut up, silly woman. Yeah. And then Joel Mackey predicting the future here. Chariots of MAGA. What a beautiful world we live in. This happened like, I don't know, 10 hours ago or something. The Daily Meme team. Just fantastic. All right, you guys ready to hear from our vice president? Let me see some Trumps in the chat. Where are my Trumps at? We got 105 watching right now, 51 likes. Let's get those likes up. Those are rookie numbers. Let's get them up. And a reminder for those of you who weren't here at the very beginning, tonight in the King Pill Discord, we'll be hopping in the voice chat after the lab here. So if you want the party to go on, come join us, kingpill.com. We will be watching a few more episodes of The Apprentice, the original series from 2004 with our president. And we're going to be seeing what happens with the crazy little the crazy little Jew boy with massive short king syndrome. We're going to find out what happens tonight. So if you want to join us for that, just go over to kingpill.com, join the King Pill Discord. All membership tiers get access to the movie events in or the I don't know, the movie watching schizo stream movie watching events in the voice chat on Friday night. So it'll probably be, I don't know, 9 p.m. Central or so when we get over there. All right, I see the Trumps in the chat. Let's listen to our vice president. So Vince asks him, "What are you doing? How are you doing the job differently than Kamala did it?"
How are you doing the job differently than Kamala did it?
Well, I don't have 4 shots of vodka before every meeting. That's one way I think that Kamala really tried to bring herself into the role is these word salads, and I think that I would need the help of a lot of alcohol to answer a question the way that Kamala Harris answered questions. I mean, look, man, I don't know. My sense is, and this is a little bit of guesswork. Obviously, I don't talk to Kamala Harris or Joe Biden very often, but my sense is that
I love how demeaning and contemptuous they are of Walz and Harris. Trump's like, Walz is a loser. Vance is like, she's a vacuous booze head. But then this was the clip. Someone finally got him on the record asking him what his favorite rare Vances are. And here's his answer.
And do you have any favorite JD Vance memes? Anything you like on the internet these days?
Definitely the Leo DiCaprio one from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he's pointing at the TV screen. That's a really good one. I'm a personal fan of Vance Halen, but that's because I really like the band Van Halen, so that's just my personal preferences. But man, I don't know how that happened or where it came from, but it's been very, very funny to watch your own face become this meme. It's made the job a lot more fun, so I encourage people to keep doing it.
It's hilarious. Thank you very much. The Vice President of the United States, JD Vance. Good to talk to you, sir.
See you, Vance. Take care, man.
Keep up the great work. There he is. That's the Vice President of the United States.
There you go, guys. You got your marching orders. Keep making the rare Vances. He loves them. One of my favorite visual images is Vance laying there on his phone, laying next to his wife, and he's like scrolling through his Twitter timeline and just chuckling to himself. Oh yeah, oh look at that one. And he like leans over and shows it to her, and she's like what the hell? He's like, look at this one, it's super deep fried. She's like, why is this happening? Oh man, I've never felt so represented. Here's a quick little story about how I want you guys to realize that we've got such heavy hitters in there now, and there's so much going on that they're just casually drop kicking their enemies, humiliating them, dragging their faces through the mud, and it barely even makes the news. This is a great example of that. Hans Monkey, Return to Monkey. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that, but he says, this is incredible. Not only did President Trump just manage to compel an elite law firm to admit wrongdoing by his former partner, Mark Pomerantz, the architect of New York's lawfare against him, but he also secured $40 million in free legal work for causes of his choosing. So this is a post from, this is a truth from Trump. He says, today, President Donald J. Trump agreed to withdraw his March 14, 2025 executive order regarding the Paul Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton, and Garrison LLP law firm, Paul Weiss, which has entered into the following agreement with the president. Paul Weiss agrees that the bedrock principle of American justice is that it must be fair and nonpartisan for all. Our justice system is betrayed when it is misused to achieve political ends. Lawyers and law firms play a vital role in assuring that we live up to that standard as a nation. Law firms should not favor any political party when it comes to choosing their clients. Firms also should not make decisions on whom to hire based on a person's political affiliation. To do otherwise is to deny some Americans an equal opportunity for our services while favoring others. Lawyers abandon the profession's highest ideals when they engage in partisan decision-making and betray the ethical obligation to represent those who are unpopular or disfavored in a particular environment. This is a struggle session in text. Paul Weiss affirms its unwavering commitment to these core ideals and principles and will not deny representation to clients, including in pro bono matters and in support of nonprofits, because of the personal political views of individual lawyers. Paul Weiss will take on a wide range of pro bono matters that represent the full spectrum of political viewpoints of our society, whether conservative or liberal. Paul Weiss affirms its commitment to merit-based hiring, promotion, and retention, and will not adopt, use, or pursue any DEI policies. As part of its commitment, it will engage experts to be mutually agreed upon within 14 days to conduct a comprehensive audit of all of its employment practices. Paul Weiss will dedicate the equivalent of $40 million in pro bono legal services over the course of President Trump's term to support the administration's initiatives, including assisting our nation's veterans, fairness in the justice system, the president's task force to combat anti-Semitism, and other mutually agreed projects. Statements from the White House, quote, the president is agreeing to this action in light of a meeting with Paul Weiss chairman Brad Karp, during which Mr. Karp acknowledged the wrongdoing of former Paul Weiss partner Mark Pomerantz, the grave dangers of weaponization, and the vital need to restore our system of justice. In response to the president's announcement, Paul Weiss's chairman Brad Karp said, quote, we are gratified that the president has agreed to withdraw the executive order concerning Paul Weiss. We look forward to an engaged and constructive relationship with the president and his administration. That, folks, is what being brought to heel looks like. Issues an executive order. And let me see real quick here. Actually, I should have pulled this up before, but let me see what the Paul Weiss executive order was. Let's ask Grok. What was the Paul Weiss executive order? I don't remember the details on it. The Paul Weiss executive order refers to an action signed by Donald Trump on March 14, 2025, titled Addressing Risks from Paul Weiss. This order targeted the law firm Paul Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton, and Garrison LLP, accusing of it engaging in activities that undermined the judicial process and national interests, including citing its past association with attorney Mark Pomerantz, who had investigated Trump's finances while at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The order aimed to suspend security clearances held by Paul Weiss employees and Pomerantz, pending a review to determine if they were consistent with national interests, direct federal agencies to terminate contracts involving Paul Weiss, and restrict its employees' access to government buildings and officials, limit government employees from engaging with Paul Weiss staff and discourage hiring them without specific waivers, and address alleged discriminatory practices within the firm, particularly related to its DEI policies, which the administration claimed violated civil rights laws. So the order was part of a broader campaign against law firms perceived as opposing Trump, including Perkins Coie and Covington and Burling. However, on March 20, 2025, Trump rescinded the order after a meeting with Paul Weiss chairman Brad Karp. They agreed to abandon DEI policies, adopt merit-based hiring, and pledge $40 million in pro bono legal services to support Trump administration initiatives. So this resolution marked a shift from confrontation to cooperation, avoiding the legal challenges faced by similar orders against other firms. So yes, just straight up brought to heel. You guys are gonna get frozen out. You're gonna be hosed. So if you want back in, you got to bend the knee. Now this is interesting. I just noticed this when I opened up Grok. Check this out. Search the JFK files. Ask Grok about the JFK files. Was it Lee Harvey Oswald, the CIA, or the Mafia? Let's see what it says. What evidence from the newly released JFK files suggests that the CIA may have been involved in the assassination? This is the fun thing. When it does this deep search and it shows the thinking, I love reading through all this stuff. So they've got it set up to search directly, to go through the archives and search for this. Huh. Well, I'm going to leave that as a teaser, and I'll go look through that later on and see. I haven't, like, I honestly don't really care that much. Like, it'll be interesting if there's something really newsworthy, people talk about it. I have my guesses about what it is, and there's going to be all sorts of reasons to not believe anything. I'm not really interested in getting sucked into that whole vortex of spurging. I'm interested in more pertinent matters. I don't begrudge anyone else who is, but it's just not really my thing. Okay. So this, oh, fuck off. Open the right tab. So Indivisible is one of these organizations that's behind the Tesla takedown domestic terrorism movement. So this is a thread here from Insurrection Barbie. This is one of those accounts that has, it obviously has some sort of relationship to Elon. He boosts them regularly, and it's one of these, there's a sort of a network of these generally kind of slop accounts, but they're very useful because they publicize these sorts of things, and they create a platform for it to be amplified. So she says, Indivisible is definitely the ringleader of the Tesla takedown domestic terrorism movement. They are the main organizers. They host the weekly calls to lay out their plans. Today was one of them. The call was 1 hour and 10 minutes and had some very interesting moments. I see that today all over their messaging. It says nonviolent because of the charges that were brought by Pam Bondi, so they seem a little spooked. Anyway, I listened to their entire organizing call for the 500 protests they're trying to organize for 3/29. Truly dystopian stuff. One of the speakers is a federal employee who belongs to the American Federation of Government Employees Union. For those that don't remember, they are one of the 6 groups that teamed up on December 19, 2024 to take down Trump. Mark Elias launched Civil Service Strong. The press release calls the firm a coalition of civil society institutions and organizations, including 2.2 million federal government civil servants. She spoke on the call to rally protesters all across the country to make their voices heard. So I just connected Indivisible with Civil Service Strong because it's all tied together. One of the most interesting parts of this 1 hour call was that Jasmine Crockett came on to speak because clearly she is part of this entire takedown the Elon Musk apparatus. A sitting member of Congress is working with Indivisible to take down an American car company and destroy its owner.
On March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. Listen, I have learned as I serve on the DOGE Oversight Committee that there is only one language that the people that are in charge understand right now. And that language is money. And so I've been so proud to see us organize behind a cause, because here's the deal. The things that we're fighting for, we are fighting for our country. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for our freedoms. And when I say fighting, I'm saying that figuratively. Obviously, everything that I am promoting is nonviolent. And so definitely don't want anyone to take that word literal in any way. But I think that it is important that we say that we stand for freedom in this country. We stand for our Constitution in this country. And the best way to show that we are American is by using our constitutional rights and deciding that we are going to engage in protests, especially when we have elected officials and then unelected people like him. But we have elected officials that don't even want to listen to the people. This is a way to yell and scream at people that are trying to close their ears to everything that the people are crying out for. Because when we are looking at a democracy, especially a democratic republic, as we reside in, then it is supposed to be the people's voices that are heard. But right now, we've got people that are saying, you know what, forget what the people are saying. Ignore them and take their livelihoods away from them. Take their ability at attaining the American dream away from them. And we'll just close our ears and pretend like they don't exist. Well, let me tell you, on March 29th, I want you to raise your voices all over the world, and I want you to be heard in such a way that no matter how much they try to ignore you, they just can't. And what we are seeing is that because people are driving this movement, we've seen that now the board is saying, hey, Elon, you need to step aside because you're messing up everything. We saw here recently that Tesla is not being welcomed in Canada, in Vancouver, because they are afraid of what may come along with that. And so, listen, if our government refuses to listen, there's another way to really make them think hard about listening to you. And it comes in the form of your protest. So I just want to say thank you, because I think far too often people forget that the real power lies literally with the people. And so to see how many people are out here and they're passionate and they are concerned about whether it's their personal identifying information that has been turned over or maybe not.
Okay, I can't take any more of it. This is a sitting member of Congress. And I'm very glad that she's willing to be captured on video talking about all of this, because on 3/29, if things pan out as they want them to pan out, they now have video proof of a sitting member of Congress advocating for this. And the administration's been very clear. They're treating this stuff as domestic terrorism. Trump himself said, this is domestic terrorism. It needs to stop. Continuing the thread, she says, this is my favorite speaker, the independent journalist and hacker, who tells us the entire point of these organized protests are to tank Tesla stock. Not a lawyer, but this seems illegal to me.
Lee calling in from Northern California. I'm excited to be here. I'm an investigative journalist and a hacker. So yeah, back in 2022, when I was the director of information security at The Intercept, I wrote a lot of articles about Elon Musk taking over Twitter. I wrote about how he immediately started purging prominent leftist accounts, how he brought back previously banned neo-Nazis and anti-vaxxers. Oh, sorry, this is my cat Malcolm. And I also wrote about how basically Twitter users were now subject to Elon Musk's arbitrary whims. So naturally, I was one of the 8 journalists that he decided to permanently suspend from Twitter because he didn't like my speech. But then a few days later, after posting a Twitter poll, he changed his mind and unbanned me. But I was still locked out of my account until I deleted the tweet that the billionaire didn't like. So instead of deleting it, I just didn't use Twitter for about a year, and oh my God, it was so much nicer. So if you are still using X, I highly recommend that you quit. Even if you have a lot of followers, it's not worth it. So now I'm part of a workaround collective that makes open source security and privacy software. We make an app called SID. You can find it at sid.social. It's CYD for claw back your data. That helps you delete all of your data from X, including delete
claw back your data, abbreviated CYD.
deleting all of your tweets for free. If you want to, Sid could also help you migrate your old tweets into Blue Sky, and we're adding support for Facebook and Instagram too, because we need to defeat all of the oligarchs, not just Elon.
Oh yeah.
Freeing yourself from fascist social media is really good for your mental health, but I'm really excited about Tesla takedown. We're a nonviolent grassroots protest movement that's focused on an actual winnable strategy to bring down Elon Musk. If we kill the Tesla brand, if we drive down the stock price low enough, we can force him to sell his stock to pay back the billions of dollars of debt that he took on to buy Twitter. This will drive Tesla stock into a death spiral. The fascists are purging the government of their critics. They're sending innocent people to Guantanamo Bay.
Imagine just coming out in public and saying, our goal is to destroy the Tesla brand. Our goal is to drive down the stock price and try to force them into bankruptcy by burning people's property. Here's a list of other prominent organizations involved in and mentioned in the call. Planet Over Profit, New Republic, 50501, John Cusack, Civil Liberties Defense Center, Association of Flight Attendants, Troublemakers, and Joan Donovan, the original organizer of this entire project. This is Joan Donovan. Meanwhile, here is the perspective of the administration.
To build the next generation.
This clip is really quiet, so let me pull up the volume here.
To build the next generation technology. I think if you want to learn something on this show tonight, buy Tesla. It's unbelievable that this guy's stock is this cheap. It'll never be this cheap again. When people understand the things he's building, the robots he's building, the technology he's building, people are going to be dreaming of today and Jesse Waters and thinking, gosh, I should have bought Elon Musk's stock. I mean, who wouldn't invest in Elon Musk? You got to be kidding. All right, so you're calling to build the next generation.
We got the libs are real big mad about this now. Because as Fred Lambert here says, I'm pretty sure this is the first time that a sitting Commerce Secretary has publicly recommended to buy a specific stock, and it happens to be linked to the fortune of Trump's biggest financial donor. On top of that, doesn't Lutnik own Tesla stocks through Cantor? Hey, Fred. I don't care. Hey, Fred. Go fuck yourself. We'll get back to Lutnik here in just a little bit, but hold on just a sec here. Why is this video not loading? Hold on. Oh. Okay, that was weird. All right, so next tab here. This from the administration. This is the administration's position on these burning Teslas. Trump posts, I look forward to watching the sick terrorist thugs get 20-year jail sentences for what they are doing to Elon Musk and Tesla. Perhaps they could serve them in the prisons of El Salvador, which have become so recently famous for such lovely conditions. We're going to take the libs that are burning Teslas and we're going to send them to Bukele. That's what Trump says. Crystal Ball, the most bizarrely named person of all time, says, heard a Tesla get sent to a foreign gulag. The Populist Party is ending civil liberties to protect the net worth of the richest man on the planet. And I just said civil liberties equals firebombing people's cars. We cannot live with these people. Both the people who are going out and firebombing other people's cars, and then the people who are calling it civil liberties. My civil liberties include being able to freely firebomb people's cars. What are you talking about? No, if you're going to go out and firebomb people's cars, you're going to be shot. That's what's going to happen. This is like insane. Absolute bizarro world. The world is completely moving away from this. The people who behave like this are not going to be welcome in polite society anymore. This isn't 2020. Nobody wants to tolerate this. The libs themselves are fracturing over this. Because the vast majority of people who own Teslas are libs. And so the more that the Democratic leadership class continues to play footsie with this and endorse it and lend support and credence to it, the more they're just destroying their own already fatally crumbling brand. John Favreau is very mad about it too. The president wants to send Americans who vandalize Teslas to a foreign prison where people are tortured and starved. Yes. Yes. If you're going to go firebomb other people's cars, we're going to send you to a foreign prison where you're going to get tortured and starved. Maybe don't firebomb other people's cars. That seems like a fair deal to me. That works. And I played you that video of Jasmine Crockett because I was going to play you this video. Amazon driver parks trailer on the side of the road in Dallas, Texas. This is in Jasmine Crockett's district. Then the same thing that would happen in most American cities happens. A crowd appears, breaks into it, then loots it, attracting an even larger crowd of looters. Looters, right? We got joggers. We've got looters. Scholars. We've got looters.
Y'all for wrong as a motherfucker, man. Leave for ramshacking that hoe. Thick ass, stealing this shit. No, that shit ain't yours. Look at this shit. Them folks ass crazy. Look at his ass stealing. Them folks ass stealing.
Oren said, as the explosion in retail theft helped to push even more brick and mortar stores out of business, many analysts suggested that online shopping would solve the problem. This is classic failure by detached elites cloistered in gated communities to grasp the nature of the problem. The goods you buy don't magically teleport to your door. They travel through the crime-ridden no-go zones you abandoned. All you did is create the equivalent of a train robbery in 2025. The only way to resolve problems like this is to have law enforcement show up and just start dropping people. Like, what you're going to see is private security. The private security industry is absolutely booming, especially post-Luigi. So we're going to start, I'm sure we're going to start seeing like armed truckers or security traveling with some of these trucks. This is also a great incentive for drone deliveries, but you can't drone deliver, like you can drone deliver after the truck has gotten there, but when you're waiting for the truck to get there, you can't do, like, we live in the United States of America. This sort of thing is not acceptable. This sort of thing cannot happen. And I don't care who it is that solves the problem. This problem must go away. The people who are incentivized and who are had the cover is run, someone's running cover for them so that they can go do this. All of those people need to be sent to El Salvador. We're going to send you to Bukele. That needs to start happening on a mass scale. The only way out of this sort of a world is when people involved in property crimes are dealt with swiftly and harshly. Make an example of them. And anybody like Jasmine Crockett, I will be shocked if Jasmine Crockett survives this administration without winding up being arrested. I think she probably wants to be, and I think the administration is going to grant it to her, and she's not going to come back out again. She's already done enough that she should be locked up for life. I don't care. The website, this is from Chuck Dirk. The website of the Philly anti-capitalist organization that cheered on the burning and looting of 2020 is now publishing instructions on how to burn Teslas without getting caught. It's not about racism or the fascism or Israel or any other next thing. They just want to burn down our civilization. Antifa is going to learn quickly that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino aren't messing around at the FBI. And they have, I feel like I probably can't even read this. I might be taking a risk just posting this visibly on the screen. People are just doing this out in the open because they think that we still live in 2020. We don't live in 2020 anymore. People are not going to tolerate groups that just post how to do domestic terrorism online out in the open and put their face on it. If the authorities, if law enforcement, if the administration doesn't proactively go after this and crush it, it's going to get much worse because people are going to start handling this on their own. Now, this is funny here. I see there's a message in the chat that I'm not supposed to know about. So we're just gonna say that I don't know about it. And I'm going to kind of vamp for a second and see if something happens here. Then we'll talk about this bill from Minnesota Republicans defining Trump derangement syndrome as mental illness. This is what I'm talking about. Make Trump derangement syndrome. Ah! Ah! You spooked me. Don't attack me. Keep her claws to yourself. What do you got? Oh, yeah. Hi, little monster. Who's this? Careful. Careful. There's lots of stuff up here. You don't want to knock everything flying. You want to say hi to everyone?
Hi.
Look, they're already getting the emotes in the chat for you. The animals, the oinks.
Please put black bears in the chat.
All right, black bears in the chat. Can you give everybody an update on Snordirk?
Snordirk is our new Dirk baby.
The new Dirk baby?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, how's she doing?
And he's about this small.
She's really, really tiny, huh?
Uh-huh.
What is she doing now?
She's actually about this big.
Oh, she's growing really fast, apparently. There's bears. They put the bears in the chat.
Black bears?
No, there isn't any black bears, so they did brown bears instead. And there's panda bears. They're partly black. Careful, you're putting that on my keyboard. They've got koala bears and more oinks.
What are koala bears?
You know what koala bears are. Ask mommy to, when you go back down, ask mommy to show you a video of koala bears. Ask mommy to show you a video of koala bears roaring. They're really funny.
Do they actually roar?
Well, yeah, they make a sound it's kind of funny. Have mommy show you the video of it.
Please put all the animals in the channel. Look, there's a unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
Crab!
A crab! Someone did a crab for you. You know who did that crab and that unicorn? That's Gaga. You want to say hi to Gaga?
And a ladybug.
And a ladybug, too. Say hi to Gaga.
Hi, Gaga.
All right, big boy. Thank you for coming to see me. I love you.
Wait, do they have all the animals in the chat?
Yep, they're doing all of them. There's some rainbows.
Wait, they don't have the dragons and the peacocks.
Oh, you want to see dragons and peacocks?
Uh-huh.
Okay. They heard you. They're going to put dragons and peacocks. Come give me a smooch. I love you, big guy.
Please also put Vikings in the chat.
There you go.
And knights riding horses.
Knights riding horses.
Uh-huh.
There's dragons and peacocks.
And the horses charging for the king and the queen.
There's horses right there.
Are they charging?
They're charging.
And are there knights on the back of them?
No, they don't have. They haven't posted the horses with knights on the back of them yet. There you go. There's some guys with swords. There's horses. There's carousel horses.
Horses with the guys on
There he
their
is.
back.
There you go, right there. Those are the horses with the guys on their backs.
And with the horses charging.
Yep, and there's the horses charging there. All right, big guy. I got to get back to my show now, okay?
Where's the person on the back of
Yeah,
it?
they posted them both there. Ask mommy to show them to you when you get down. You'll be able to see them on the phone better. I love you, big guy.
Okay.
Close the door behind you.
They put
My wife says, thank you for indulging him, y'all. He talks about it every day. Yes, he does. He's always, he wants to have his own YouTube channel. And sometimes Amy gives him my second phone, and he just sets it up, hits record on it, and then plays and like pretends that he's recording a YouTube video for all of his viewers. Things that I never would have even conceived of doing when I was 4.5. But yes, the younger generations live in a very strange world. All right. Thank you for indulging him, guys. Paul Thacker says TDS will likely not make it into the next DSM, but it remains a serious disorder that needs research investments to provide clear diagnostics and therapies. Mental health is health. Elon laugh reacted to it. Give me more of this. Yes. Minnesota Republicans' bill to define Trump derangement syndrome as mental illness provokes backlash. Weaponize their therapy worldview against them. They get someone diagnosed with Trump derangement syndrome and they have to like formally get treatment for it. If you have Trump derangement syndrome, perhaps you need to be put in a what is it called? A psych hold for 72 hours. This is not yesterday's GOP, folks. And after all of this, so their whole goal is like, oh, we're going to destroy the Tesla brand. We're going to crush Elon by making him really unpopular. Well, here is the Rasmussen pollster. His name just escaped my mind. Mark something or other. Drops a truth nuke. Elon Musk has a higher favorability rating than the Democratic Party by all measures, and DOGE is outperforming Trump with a +11 net favorability.
Elon Musk, obviously, without question, the most controversial member of the administration. DOGE doesn't ever get a good news day in the corporate press, at least. They do around here. What do people say about DOGE and cutting waste, fraud, and abuse?
I mean, that's a psychological op for sure, because right now, Elon Musk has a higher favorability rating than the Democrat Party by all measures. We actually had DOGE outperforming Trump with a +11 net favorability rating. Wow. And Elon Musk was only a point or two behind Trump, but that slipped a few points since they started torching dealerships. But who knows? Maybe the Dolphins coming to meet his spaceship as it came in, and maybe that'll give him a bump. It doesn't matter. Trump's not going to care that Elon Musk has a 47 versus a 51% favorability rating. And Elon Musk isn't going to stop because he thinks this is existential. So this comes back to the Democrats. Like, how high are you going to escalate things? Are you going to take this national Tesla ownership database and turn it into an enemies list? Are you going to literally call for violence? And I think there's a lot of them who might actually do it. So that's one of the things we're trying to get at, I think, this year is unpacking, how angry are voters going to get at the level of fraud? Because what we uncovered, I think you and me could say just in the first 2 weeks of January, hasn't been socialized to the vast majority of people in this country. And it's all kind of like gone away a little bit. People aren't focusing on the fact that, they're probably stealing between $500 billion and $1 trillion a year. So I want to see the voters come to terms with that and what that does with people's opinion. And I want to see how far the Democrats are going to push crazy, because right now, like, Reddit's a pretty sick place and they have a choice. They could, lick their wounds, try and find a new leadership and moderate and hopefully eventually earn voters on the merits. Or, like somebody said on my Twitter feed, they're basically bleeding Kansas right now with Tesla dealerships. They're acting like the Confederates did before the Civil War.
So, speaking of DOGE, Joel Mackey says red flag laws strip weapons from Antifa with TDS. Now we're talking. Yes, let's use those red flag laws. Yeah, that's right, Melon. We are the moderates. So speaking of DOGE, let me look this thing up here real quick. Let's see here. Okay, so I wanted to see what this guy's actual title is. Oh, piss off. So this guy is he's a DOGE staffer, a DOGE deputy. I can't remember his exact role, but this is Sam Korkos, co-founder and CEO of Levels, Levels helps you see how food affects your health. Founder of Cardash. He's a graduate of Y Combinator. And he is one of the guys that they brought in to work on the DOGE project. And he sat down with for this interview that I'm going to play for you guys here now. 12-minute interview with Laura Ingraham and Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent tweeted this out. He said, IRS modernization is 30 years behind schedule, $15 billion over budget, and is relying on outdated technology. We are working hard to make it more efficient. 30 years behind schedule, $15 billion over budget. And I know it's kind of a meme at this point. Like, yeah, federal government, every single thing they do is like going to be super delayed and way more expensive. But the DOGE effort is actually driven at targeting exactly the sorts of issues that have evolved into this characteristic of the federal government. And their thesis is essentially, we don't have to live this way. It doesn't have to be like that. We have all of the resources at our disposal to make it so that the federal government is actually a lean, mean, efficient operation. And just means getting the right people in positions of leadership.
Tonight, we sit down exclusively with one of the men responsible for turning Elon Musk's DOGE plans into reality. Joining me now is Sam Korkos, who's a special advisor within the U.S. Treasury Department. He's also CEO and co-founder of Levels, which is a really cool health and wellness software company. Also joining me, he's getting second billing tonight, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. We'll get back to you, Mr. Secretary, in a moment. But Sam, let's start with you. Like, no one knows much about all of you guys who are working together, and I know you work at Treasury now. Tell us what brought you here into Washington and what your top priority is.
Yeah, I've been brought in to look at the IRS's modernization program in particular, as well as the operations and maintenance budget. I really care a lot about this country, and this is a huge program that's currently 30 years behind schedule, and it's already $15 billion over budget.
Wait a second. Explain to our viewers what the program is in layman's terms.
Yeah, so the goal is to take the IRS has some pretty legacy infrastructure. It's actually very similar to what banks have been using. It's old mainframes running COBOL and assembly. And the challenge has been, how do we migrate that to a modern system? Virtually every bank has already done this, but we're still using a lot of those same systems. And typically in industry, this takes a few years, maybe a few $100 million. And we're now 35 years into this program. We've actually been, if you ask them now, it's 5 years away. And it's been 5 years away since 1990. It's supposed to be delivered in 1996, and it's still 5 years away.
In your area of expertise that informs your ability to do this review is what?
I'm a software developer by background, and I'm a CEO of a software technology company.
So when you came into the department, the first thing you do is just get into the guts of the system and see how it operates?
Yeah, really talk to the software developers. Talk to the people on the ground and what they're seeing. I think one encouraging thing is we actually have quite a lot of software talent on the ground, the people writing code. We actually have quite a lot of good people. It is almost always the case that when I ask them what the correct answer is, how do we solve these problems, they're almost always right, which is good. They just haven't been in a position to be empowered to make those decisions. So I'm actually pretty optimistic that we can solve this.
Secretary Bessent, why has this taken so long? I mean, Sam seems obviously very, very successful, extremely intelligent. But I assume we have other Sams in the United States. We could have had a Sam 15 years ago come in and fix this. What is going on?
Well, Laura, you've been in D.C. a long time. I've been here 8 weeks. But one of the biggest surprises for me is just seeing how these entrenched interests just keep constricting themselves around the power, around the money, around the systems, and nobody cares. I mean, I said to Sam today, I said, the IRS system was supposed to be delivered in 1996, and he said, no, but it was started in 1990. So that's how far behind they are, and nobody cares. And the other thing we're seeing, too, is, as Sam said, some of the employees, many of the employees are fantastic. It's this consultant group who has they're like a boa constrictor, they're like a python. They've got themselves
no pun intended.
Yeah.
Python language.
Yeah.
All you coders have them.
It was intended. So,
Okay. Marty Vance. Thanks.
But they've constricted themselves around our government, and the costs are unbelievable that are being passed on to the American taxpayer.
Okay, so Sam, again, you come in from this this tech company. You've been in directing engineering teams. You've been doing your own coding and software engineering for so many years. But you come in here and you see this is one of the most important departments in the world, not just in our government, in the world. And you see how this has been organized and run for so many years. What, as a human being, what is your reaction to that?
It's
were you stunned as I am just hearing about this?
Yeah, it's hard to really grasp the scale of this because we process at the IRS about the same amount of data as a mid-sized bank, and a typical mid-sized bank will have somewhere between 1 and 200 people in IT, and they'll have an operations and maintenance budget in like the $20 million a year range. We have 8,000 people in IT, and our operations and maintenance budget is $3.5 billion a year. I don't really know why.
I'm going to play that for you one more time. Listen to this comparison.
And a typical mid-sized bank will have somewhere between 1 and 200 people in IT.
So 1 and 200 people in IT.
And they'll have an operations and maintenance budget in like the $20 million a year range.
Operations and maintenance budget in the $20 million a year range. So 100 to 200 people in IT, $20 million.
We have 8,000 people.
8,000 people compared to 100 to 200. 8,000
in IT. And our operations and maintenance budget is $3.5 billion a year.
$3.5 billion a year versus 20 million. And it's interesting that Besant points this out, that the actual employees themselves are mostly actually pretty good. It's this consultant class that's bolted onto the outside. That's where all of the bloat and all of the inefficiency is.
I don't really know why yet, but I will tell you that 80% of that budget goes to contractors and licenses.
So the contractors and putting these projects out to bid, Mr. Secretary, how big a problem has that been?
Well, clearly it's a problem, and that's why when you and I were talking the other night, that's why I wanted to bring Sam in, because I just gotten a briefing from him, and my jaw hit the ground when he was talking about the cost, the timeline. As you know, we talked about it before, I have 3 priorities with the IRS: collections, privacy, customer service, and none of those are being well served. Look at the scale of this.
And Sam, for Americans watching this tonight who've heard all these stories about the people brought in to dismantle the government and rip it apart and destroy people's lives, you didn't have to do this. You have a lot of priorities in the business world. But again, like Musk and like people even younger than you who came in, they got the world on a string. So what do you say to those people who are hearing all these frightening stories about what you and the DOGE bros, as they're called, are doing?
Yeah, this was definitely not on my bingo card for this year. I was very much planning to continue to focus on my company. We have a 15-month-old boy. It's been really fun, but I got a lot of friends of mine in administration telling me how serious the situation is, and so I'm taking some time to really focus on this. I think it is a huge part of our government is collecting taxes. We cannot perform the basic functions of tax collection without paying a toll to all these contractors. We really have to figure out how to get out of this hole. We're in a really deep hole right now.
IRS.
Just listening to this guy talk and looking at him, got a 15-month-old son, wasn't planning on getting into this. And if you listen to the full Howard Lutnick interview, I'm going to play you guys part of it, but especially the first part of it where he talks about the way that the DOGE thing emerged, the way the idea developed, where it came from, how it was put together, and then everything we've been talking about for a year and a half about the PayPal mafia and the role that David Sachs and Mark Andreessen and Naval Ravikant and all of these guys have played in feeding into and developing the demand for the DOGE effort. This guy is directly out of that world. This is a case in point example, came out of the VC world, tech founder, and he's doing this on if I understood Lutnik correctly, he's doing this on a volunteer basis. They're not actually being paid to do this. Now they're being paid in connections and network and you know, they're being paid in prestige, but they're not being paid directly to do this. These are the guys that are getting death threats and having everyone the whole media ecosystem completely melt down about them. So think about where this guy was with respect to the American political system and the regime. And then he signs up to do this job and then gets all of these hit pieces about him, his coworkers being doxxed, them being threatened, and now the whole Tesla terrorism thing going off. Think about this guy's perspective on the world and how it's changing. And then his social cohort, how they're being affected by all of these events. A lot of this stuff is happening. We're witnessing this developing in real time.
IRS employees, according to CNN, claim that you were basically ignorant about how the agency works. I guess you were supposed to know everything before you got there, but that's what they're saying. Your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know that I'm learning now. I think I know a lot about software systems. That's why I was brought in. So that's the main focus: is how do we turn this around? We have a $3.5 billion operations and maintenance budget. We have a $3.7 billion modernization effort within IT. That's a lot of budget, and we are way beyond any reasonable cost for what you would expect at a private company for this.
What has been the biggest surprise? You, again, Secretary Bessent's, been in the business world as well, but he heard it from me. But when you first saw this, what was the biggest surprise that you found at that Department of Treasury?
I would say it's the disconnect between leadership and the people actually doing the work is a big one. I would say that it doesn't take a lot, just somebody who cares to solve these problems. You find contracts that are 10, 20, 30, 50 million dollars, and you just ask, like, why are we doing this? And everyone's just like, I don't know. And then you cancel it, and then nothing happens. It's just inertia has just taken over.
I mean, okay. I'm so frustrated in hearing this, but I'm so glad.
Tens of millions of dollars in contracts. What are you doing this for? All right, well, we'll just cancel it. Nothing happened. This is money just. This is the money printer go burr. That's what all of that was. All of this money, because that ultimately there are people who get paid that money, and then they spend that money elsewhere in the economy, and it floats around, and it's going to float around. There's going to be that sort of Cantillon effect where it touches the things that they touch most. So the whole ecosystem around the people who are working in government contracting and all the adjacent worlds, the everything from personal goods to homes to vehicles to devices, various pieces of technology, all of this money has been flooded into this as just like the airlock opened up, and it's just siphoning capital away from anything productive and into these completely unproductive pursuits. Joe Mackey says, this is the revenge of the Patriot tech bros. Left-wing tech is getting obliterated. Yes. And then Georgie says, they're getting paid to retain the rights to any software they develop while volunteering. Yeah, that's what they're going to get paid on the back end for doing it. So it's not like they're, poor little volunteer tech bro. Like, he's going to make out. But there's a risk, and there's foresight involved and discipline and low time preference and making this agreement and going to do this kind of thing. There was another comment here I wanted to highlight. Yeah, Kate says McKinsey's going to see a huge downsizing as a result of these BS contracts getting canceled. The consulting world is going to get kicked in the balls. And then Joe Mackey, this one, he says, so tech bros live off license bloat and then feed it back into as dim donations. Yeah, this is the grift. You sell the federal government these licenses that they never use. They have more licenses than they do personnel, and they're just sitting there just on constant rebill. So it's inflating the actual valuations of all these different tech companies. That's where, so like, this is why the NASDAQ has been screaming, and it's now tanking, because so many of these companies have been, they have a foundation of revenue that they can build off of that's just baked in, because it's government contracts that you don't have to do anything for. You don't have to maintain them. Nobody even uses them, but you just get paid for them anyways. That's why everyone screams when they say, okay, we're going to start canceling this stuff.
You're getting your hands dirty by getting in there. Mr. Secretary, Sam comes from the outside world. He's very keen. I'm reading his bio and what he's done on time management. That's how he's been so successful, managing 15-minute increments of his time, analyzing it. So he's data-driven. This should be a data-driven agency. You're a money guy. You've made billions of dollars in the business world because you're data-driven. So why is this controversial to make the IRS data-driven?
Well, because it's... Like I told Elon, I said, Elon, you're under fire because you've moved people's cheese. And he said, well, it's the American people's cheese, and it doesn't belong to these people. And again, that's why I wanted the American people to meet Sam. We're going to bring some more DOGE people forward to actually hear their stories, see what's being done, because the entrenched interests, the consultants, the Democrats, mainstream media, they just want to blow this project out of the water. And it's important because I keep saying this is the opposite of government efficiency, not elimination, not extinction. Sam and his crew are making it more efficient to work for the American people. So what's wrong with it working better, cheaper, faster, and with more privacy?
The president essentially said he wants efficiency across the federal government. He brought in Elon to do that. You're a big part of this. Is it possible, given what you've seen as far as the resistance, both in the courts and among mostly Democrats?
Honestly, I haven't really had much of an issue. The career staff has been super cooperative. I think we've so far stopped work and cut about $1.5 billion from the modernization budget, mostly projects that were going to continue to put us down this death spiral of complexity in our code base. I think most people that I've interacted with are really excited that somebody actually cares now. They've been in a situation where their hands are tied and they can't solve the things that they know need to be solved. My experience has honestly been very positive working with them.
It's very interesting that what he highlights there, that there isn't just the matter of budget bloat here. There's also software bloat and the increased complexity of having all of these different programs shoehorned in and stapled together. I've done a very, very minimal bit of trying to integrate two separate SaaS systems and try to make them like a CRM and then a different type of CRM, and each of them has their strengths, and you're trying to integrate them and use Zapier to try to connect stuff, and you're going through and testing, and then the thing doesn't break and you have to go, or the thing breaks, it doesn't work, you have to go back through and try to figure out where it broke and what the thing is, and you got to clear out cookies and do the whole thing, just doing this cycle all over and over and over again. And that was just with like 2 CRMs and trying to connect them. It's insane. It is absolutely insane that our society has been able to keep moving forward as it has with the massive millstones. There's like dozens of millstones collectively. Each one of them should take a civilization down. And we've been bearing dozens of them simultaneously, dragging them along with us.
I mean, this is back to the messaging point. And again, going back to his history in business, communication is key, from staff to leadership to staff. And also here, the consumer is the American people, the taxpayer. Those are the ultimate consumers here. It's very important that you had this idea to bring Sam in, but people need to understand what this is.
Yeah, but look, it's all hands on deck, because we got this massive the government debt. We're going to pay that down, but we're also going to make government work better. Again, if you were to ask Sam about the customer support, it's unbelievable. The system, the customer support, they have the same number of people working on Christmas Eve as they do on April 14th at the IRS. Why?
So efficiency across the board must be implemented. It's unfair to the taxpayer who foots the bill for all of this. Unfair.
Well, I don't.
And a ripoff.
Yeah, and look, we want people to like the government. We want the government.
No one's going to like the IRS. Sorry.
We want people to feel satisfied that they are getting the service they deserve, that they're paying their fair share and not more, not less, and that it's done quickly, smartly, and privately.
Sam, how long are you going to stay in Washington?
I'm committed to 6 months.
Okay. All right. Sam and Mr. Secretary, thank you both for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Sam, keep working.
When they say most transparent administration, they're not kidding. It's phenomenal that we get to sit and get these sorts of deep dives into like the interviews that Bessent and Lutnik have been doing. These sorts of Bessent is probably the most transparent, accessible member of the administration after Trump. It's like Trump, Vance, Elon, Bessent. They're the ones who have made themselves the most available. And it's phenomenal that for those who are listening, for those who are paying attention, they're telling you exactly what's happening, exactly what their plan is, exactly where things are going. For anyone who's willing to listen, most people aren't willing or aren't even aware that it's happening because they're spun out on this issue or that issue or whatever other thing. They're blackpilling or just distracted. But the people who are paying attention, if you're listening to this show, I'm bringing you this stuff constantly. I'm just like, this is what they're saying. Josh Ham says, once again, all this liberal and libertine BS was not organic. All the degeneracy and stupidity was pushed and incentivized by criminals stealing from the public coffers. Yes, exactly. Now, H. Rose MD here says, keep in mind, FedGov has to roll over $26 trillion in old debt in the next 4 years and will likely take on an additional $10 trillion in debt over that time. Even though this stuff needs to be done, not even close. Well, see, here's the thing. Now, there's a perfect segue to start talking about Howard Lutnik and this interview that he did with All In. Because in that interview, he lays out the game plan, essentially. Yes, we have a spending problem, but we don't really have a debt problem. We just have a breakdown between our balance sheet, our revenues, our spending, and our debt. Our balance sheet is more than enough to make the debt completely irrelevant. But we've been restricted from actually accessing the full balance sheet capacity that is available to the United States. We are being smothered. We have more than sufficient asset capacity here. Our capital markets are immensely deep. But we're just not touching so much of them. And the system, when you get this sort of complexity and fraud and waste and distorted incentives, then it diminishes our effective balance sheet because it's not being used efficiently. We got bad allocation of capital. But the actual capacity out there is immense. It just needs to be unlocked. We've been led by people who don't want us to unlock the wealth of the United States unless it's done in a very orderly, controlled fashion that they can use to inflate their scams. But we've got a new leadership class taking over now. And that this whole DOGE effort, all of this is all centered on this notion that we should not be having the financial problems that we're having. These are fake and self-inflicted. And they don't need to continue. So the first clip here from I encourage you to go listen to the whole conversation. I'm going to give you some healthy excerpts from it. The first one here is Lutnik talking about Trump personally. So they spend the first half or so of the conversation just kind of talking about Lutnik's background and how he got connected, how he knew Trump, and how he got started with the transition, how the transition worked, how he got to know Elon, and how they met the first couple times they interacted with each other, how they began developing the idea of DOGE, et cetera, et cetera. And you could have no better hype man in your corner than Howard Lutnik. Listening to him listening to him talk is just gets you amped up. He is an operator. He is a cold, hard mercenary operator. Absolutely at the peak of his class. Now, this is part of why I'm a little wary of him. My judgment right now of him is that he is truly a mercenary. And he's very, very good at his job. So he knows what his job is. He's been hired to do this job. And he is all the way in because he personally is going to benefit from it. And he gets to feel really good about himself while he's doing it. And he's negotiating big deals and connecting people together. And he gets to feel proud and patriotic, which is something that he genuinely seems to sincerely feel. Like he genuinely sees himself as a patriotic American who paints America in the most glowing possible terms. So this is the way, and at every possible, he manages to walk this line very well between being a total egomaniac, very like he's like over the top arrogant, kind of a little playfully, but you could tell there's it's kind of serious, while also being entirely perfectly deferential to the president.
Here's the thing about Donald Trump.
Oh, I gotta slow this down.
Here's the thing about Donald Trump. He was the most famous, the most fun, the most interesting person 30 years ago, 33 years ago. I mean, here's the best thing. He's been on the cover of Time magazine 59 times.
No way.
And then he leans over to me and he goes, and 20 were good. Like, but who can take that?
Yeah.
I mean, who could take it? Like other people, when you have a bad cover of Time magazine, you'd crumple, right, and be sand on the floor. Instead, he's like,
but so Howard, is it that he's just totally wired to understand that moment, like of being a public figure, or like what is it that's so unique about what constitutes the ability to navigate that over 40 years?
I think it adds energy to him. Right? So everybody else's energy, what they don't understand is people bring negative energy to Donald Trump, right? And they're just charging his battery. Okay? Your energy around him comes to him. So when I come at him with a lot of energy, he comes back with a lot of energy.
Right.
Right? It doesn't matter. He never steps back. He just sort of takes it like the centrifuge and then hurls it back at you. And he's been that way always. So this is not new.
This is just who he is.
This is who he is. So those other people who attack him, they think they're attacking him. They're charging his battery. They're literally charging his battery. So he comes back bigger, stronger, bigger, stronger. And once you understand the man, the most intuitive person that you've ever met. And people say, well, okay, so people who know me, I don't suffer fools. And they have all these derogatory, all my left liberal friends, all these derogatory statements about the guy. Right? And they know me really well. Right? And they'd say, well, how can you work for him? I'd say, how can I work for him? The most intuitive person. He senses it. He knows it.
There's something he says later. I can't remember if I have this included in one of the clips here, but he says something about, he's talking about good ideas. And I think he's talking about when he came up with the idea of DOGE, of specifically calling it DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And he brought it up, and he told a story about when he brought it up that it was, he referred back to, I believe, like the New Deal time, if I'm remembering correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But he talked about how they were bringing in all these other major business leaders, and they would pitch them on these big infrastructure projects, and they would name them something funny that would appeal to like the man's a student of history. So they would name him something funny that would appeal to the executive that they were trying to get buy-in from. And so he said, that's why he said DOGE for the Department of Government Efficiency. And he pitched Elon on it and sold him on it. And he mentioned several times throughout, like he definitely wants credit for coming up with a lot of these ideas. He's very interested in people seeing him as an impressive person. He has a very high esteem of himself. But he also makes this point. He says, I could come up with the best idea in the world, and if I'd presented it to Joe Biden, he would have never done anything with it. So my amazing idea isn't worth anything until the president, calls him DJT, until DJT puts a stamp of approval on it. He's the one, it's his idea. Because the only way the idea actually goes anywhere is if he's the one who does something with it. So I can come up with all these ideas, and I am the one who came up with it, but it isn't actually real, and it doesn't matter until the president puts a stamp on it. This is like, we're returning to the age of hierarchy, where people recognize their natural status. And like intuition, you guys are talking about this in here. Mellon says the age of intuition rather than fake and gay facts and logic. Right. Georgie says Lutnik is the product of his training. He's the link between that old hard analog trading floor and the new tech startup world. Yeah, he speaks both worlds. He's bridged them perfectly. And he's a Brooklyn Jew. Like this is exactly who he is. And I get the sense, like speaking to the Luongo, he's the one I've heard talking about this, and I trust that Luongo does have connections to the transition team, and he's passed on that there are people within the administration that aren't real big fans of Lutnik. And then there was the whole thing with the clearinghouse in London that Bessent, it was brought up by John Cornyn to Bessent during his nomination hearing, and he was like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen." Lutnik was one of the people who was involved in that, and so I could see this being, again, this is why I get the sense that he's a mercenary, and he's on board for something that's going to make money and be like a really big legacy thing, and it's going to be really good for him, and so sure, why not? Let's have this clearinghouse, and I'm going to position myself perfectly to benefit from that. And then someone else comes and says, "Hey, here's this opportunity. We're going to do things this way. Here's an opportunity." He's like, "Cool, sounds good. Let's do that." So he seems very mercenary-like to me. I don't get the sense that he is some sort of a deep state plant to subvert him and pull him over. I think he's in it for himself. And I think he's an American, and he's very proud to be an American, and he loves the mystique and the mythology and everything of being an American. If I was to try to make the bull case for him, it would be he's a mercenary, and he's following the big man who's in charge now, who has the most power and the most wealth to offer, and that's great. It's good to have those guys around. I'd rather him be a mercenary here than a mercenary there. And then him being sort of unpopular within the transition, if that's the case, could just be a temperament thing. Like he's a blowhard, and he's probably a pretty high pressure, he's probably very high energy, kind of stressful to be around, and he's probably a dick. And so maybe people just kind of don't like him. That would be the way I could interpret the little bits of data that we have on him to say that he's actually, this would be like the bull case for him, as opposed to, he's a Shabodnik plant to subvert everything or whatever. So he tells this story here about when he and Elon were at the Madison Square Garden event, and they had this little coordinated kind of goofy little thing they were going to say, and then Elon departed from the script, and it's had a major effect on their strategy going forward.
So I invite Elon to Madison Square Garden. He doesn't want to leave Pennsylvania, right? Because Elon, he's committed to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I convince him he's got to come. And we have a plan. Everyone else gets introduced by the voice of God. I'm the only one who introduces Elon. So Elon comes on stage with me. There's the two of us on stage in Madison Square Garden. I say to him, "How much are you going to cut?" The deal was he's going to cut $1 trillion. And then he's supposed to say, "And how much are you going to earn?" And I'm supposed to say $1 trillion. And then we're supposed to say, together we're going to balance the budget of the United States of America. That's the little sort of thing. So I ask Elon, "How much are you going to cut?"
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
He said $2 trillion.
Well, because we're in front of 22,000 people and the place is erupting, he says $2 trillion. And then I'm sitting there going, and I'm like, I think I said alrighty then.
Alrighty
or
then.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. You know what I mean? Like, what was I supposed to say? Yeah!
You were caught off guard, but I mean,
Did he
it was
ask
quite
you how
a
much
moment.
you're going to earn?
No, because he said $2 trillion.
He's like, I got it all. Don't worry, Howard. Yeah.
Like I said, alrighty then,
Yeah.
and that was that. So then I walked off stage, and he said $2 trillion. So like, what am I going to say?
So that's how it went from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. And Elon went and put him in a situation where now they have to make sure that they don't oversell and underdeliver. But so the plan, as they discussed it, and this is what he elaborates on in the whole conversation, is he has his plan for cutting $1 trillion, and he breaks down exactly how he would do that. It's super straightforward. And one of the things he points out is that DOGE is the way that they're actually able to work and be involved in the way that they are is because they are it's called, I think, a gratis contract, where they're not being paid for what they're doing. They're donating to the government, which actually means that they're able to operate much more freely and flexibly, because you don't have to go through all the paperwork and everything. They're just donating their time. Yeah, Slutty Milk, you can literally just double the numbers to 2 trillion. Mellon says, if you're in a real conflict, you buy out the mercenaries so the other guys can't have them above other reasons. Yes, exactly. And he seems to be a mercenary who's been bought out. So he has his plan for cutting $1 trillion. Elon says 2 trillion. So he's like, oh, Jesus, okay. Well, then you need to be responsible for finding that 2 trillion. We already had a plan for 1 trillion. You need to find the additional trillion. And then he says, my responsibility, he and Lutnik, or he and Besant, their job is to make the 2 trillion. So you cut the 2 trillion and make the 2 trillion. And then here's his comments on the income tax and where the idea came for scrapping the income tax. And then we'll talk about tariffs. The tariff clip you guys are going to enjoy. It's going to sound very, very familiar.
That's $1 trillion a year.
Right.
Okay, so I said, I think we're going to cut $1 trillion a year in expense. And then I think we can, through tariffs and other means, we're going to get revenues of $1 trillion. Okay?
Incremental revenue.
Incremental revenue.
Yeah.
And we're going to balance the budget.
But sorry, let me just ask one question. How did the tax cut to the extension of the tax cuts?
There is zero basis. I mean,
zero basis.
Where I was yesterday and where I am tomorrow, like, it's a tax cut. No, it's not. It's the exact same thing as yesterday is today. To say continuing yesterday tomorrow is like silly.
So let me ask you on tariffs. Having studied it yourself, when there's higher tariffs, people purchase less, things cost more.
No, we'll talk about tariffs.
Yeah.
Let's just finish.
Let's just
finish DOGE. So I'm in the car with him, right? And I said, we're going to balance the budget. And I said, but I have one favor to ask of you. If we can balance the budget for you, will you agree to waive all income tax for every person who makes less than $150,000 a year for the United States of America, which, by the way, is about 85% of America.
Right.
And the reason you want to work for Donald Trump is he looks at me and goes, sure. Like, you realize the President of the United States said, if you balance the budget, sure. And he's not lying. He's not kidding. He's like, yeah.
What this has done now is the more that they can popularize this, the more they can formalize this. The way to do this. I know everyone's like, I want this done. I need to get this done. Get this as soon as possible. The way to do this is to hold on to this as a major post midterms agenda item. We're going to abolish income taxes for everyone making under 150,000, but use it as a campaign thing during the midterms. I think that's the political way to go about it, which buys them the time to actually get the budget balance. And they have got a very clear idea of how to actually get the budget balance. That's the Elon and DOGE on one side and Lutnik and Besant on the other side. So here he explains how America was built by tariffs. And this 4-minute clip here is going to sound very, very familiar to a lot of you.
America was built on tariffs with no income tax. No income tax till 1913. None. greatest, richest country in the world. So when Donald Trump says, make America great again, what he's talking about is from 1880 to 1913, when the country had so much money that we had blue ribbon commissions, which you guys would have been on, right? To try to figure out how to spend the money. Right? And no income tax. Then we put in the income tax in 1913. Why? Because we're entering World War I.
Yeah.
And don't we all need to contribute to protect democracy and to protect our way of life? Right? Then what happens is the world goes into chaos. We come out of chaos. Right? And then we're starting to think of, well, what do we do? What do we do? And then 1929, the stock market crashes. Right? 1933, we start to say, oh God, we forgot. We need to do tariffs. 1933. How can you do tariffs when the markets crash, the world's going into depression, and you're going to do tariffs in 1933? You can't charge the rest of the world money unless the rest of the world's okay.
That's right.
So it was too little, too late. Right? So then we come out of World War II. It's 1945. We need to rebuild the world. Okay? So we decide we're going to take our tariffs down. And we'll let them, here's the key, we'll let them have tariffs be up. And we will export the power of our economy to let them rebuild. And we'll let them rebuild. And that's what happens. So 1945, we have the Marshall Plan, right? And we do it in Japan, of course, because they need to be rebuilt. What's the difference, right? So they need to be rebuilt. And then what happens? We have the 50s, and we have the Korean War. So we let them rebuild, which means low tariffs here, high tariffs there. Low tariffs here, high tariffs there. Then we have the Vietnam War, right? So now all of a sudden we have all of Southeast Asia. Low tariffs here, high tariffs there. You know what the best example I can give you to make it crystal clear? Kuwait. We spend almost $100 billion freeing Kuwait, right? You know who has the highest tariffs against the United States of America? The number one country with the highest tariffs against the United States of America. Kuwait. And you think, what? That's it. Here's what it is. If you go back to this understanding the way America thinks, you need to be rebuilt. You were just destroyed, right? All their oils were, you remember Red, the guy's name was Red something, and he was the guy who capped all there were fires in all the oil wells, and he capped them all, and it was amazing. So we let them put up high tariffs. But you know what the problem is? Then we forget.
Right.
And we let it go.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump comes in and says, it's got to stop.
Okay, so that's an incredible context now for tariffs. It's like, it was a long-term strategy that essentially says, okay, great. There's rebuilding to be done, sort of almost out of the largesse of America. We're going to enable that to happen. So we'll lower tariffs here, and we'll support the high tariff regimes over there.
We let it happen.
We let it happen.
On purpose.
But it's an incredible thing you're also saying, though, which is that it's inexorably linked to this repetitive machinery of war, because those create these boundary conditions over and over again.
Always.
Where there's so much destruction abroad that America then feels compelled to have to do this.
Correct.
And
That's
so-
exactly right. So what happens is, and then you say to yourself, okay, I get the 40s, I get the 50s, I get the 70s, right? But 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, what? It's time out. 20. So Donald Trump gets elected 2016. Who understands this? Okay, let me give you a hint. Donald J. Trump. Who else? Nobody.
Yeah.
That's such an insightful point from Chamath, who is continuing to validate my my recognition of him as the best non-sax member of the All In podcast. That he makes that connection there. That there's this this connection between the so-called military-industrial complex, the regime change apparatus that stokes these wars, and then gives you the opportunity to come in and rebuild those countries. And how do we rebuild those countries? Well, we do it by reducing our tariffs with respect to them, bringing up their tariffs, and then they begin producing things that we purchase, and then they buy our debt and they hold our debt. That's how they use our dollars. So all of our dollars are going out. And then a bunch of foreigners are holding all of our debt. This is the down, like, is this the thing that an empire would do to itself? We have an American empire. This is how an empire would behave. A very new, very young empire. Is this how it would, like, supposedly at the height of its strength? This is the way a dying empire would behave. Because we are living through a dying empire, but the empire that's dying is not the American empire. The American empire hasn't even begun to exist yet. So you can't just change the tariff regime. And the man's a student of history. Besant is a student of history. These guys know their shit. And they know full well that if you change the tariff regime, you have to change everything else. Because the entire networked global economy has been built upon this premise of these tariffs and the offshore dollar market and the way that it runs, the way the entire bond market works. This has been the premise for the status quo. And if you're going to change one part of that status quo, you're going to have to change every part of it at the same time. Here's his comments on the Trump card, this $5 million gold card. Make sure, okay.
Can you tell us about the Trump card?
Sure. So,
whose idea was that? And how did that come about?
John Paulson had a call with Donald Trump and was talking to Donald Trump and was kicking around the idea of we should sell, right? Why do we give away visas? We should sell them. And they're talking about it. Donald Trump calls me, gets me on the phone.
Why do we give away visas? We should sell them. That's what I'm talking about.
Right? We all talk about it, right? And then we go from there. And then my job is to figure out, like I always figure out, how to do it. What's the path?
Do you have
Let's
a
go
path?
figure it out. Of course. About 2 weeks from today, it goes out. Okay? Elon's building me the software right now.
Yeah.
Right? And then out it goes. And by the way,
So, a couple points there. The official announcement of the gold cards is going to be coming in 2 weeks, and Elon is building the software for managing that.
yesterday I sold 1,000.
Oh, you did? I got a poly market I created on how many are you guys going to sell this year. So
Cool.
Yeah, curious to see how many.
That's fantastic. Do you want to tell people just the rough?
Yeah, what are the
broad
terms
strokes?
on it? Yeah.
So if you're a U.S. citizen, you pay global tax.
Yeah.
Okay? So you're not going to bring in outsiders who are going to come in to pay global tax. So if you have a green card, which used to be a green card, now gold card, you're a permanent resident of America. You can be a citizen, but you don't have to be. And none of them are going to choose to be. What they're going to do is they're going to have the right to be in America. They pay $5 million, and they have the right to be in America. They have the right to be in America.
Permanent residency. Yeah.
As long as they're good people.
And they're vetted.
And they're vetted, and they can't break the law. We can always take it away if they're like evil or mean or bad or something. Not mean, but if they do something horrible, you can take it away, right? But the idea is, if I was not American, and I lived in any other country, I would buy 6. One for me, one for my wife and my 4 kids, because God forbid something happens. I want to be able to go to America, and I want to have the right to go to the airport, to go to America, and them to say, hello, Mr. Lutnik. Hello, Mr. Lutnik and the Lutnik family. Welcome home.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear I can't come here when there's a horrible war, a horrible whatever.
Right.
I want to be able to go home. Right? And once I'm home, I might as well build a business.
Yeah.
So you have the most productive people in the world going to start spending time here. They're going to have a family office. They're going to hire some people.
And you're not going to tax their external worldwide income.
I only tax the money they make in America, which is what we do now.
Yeah.
But their global income stays out.
And they pay $5 million. And how many people do you think there are that could qualify in the world?
There are 37 million people in the world who are capable of buying the card.
That's
in case you were wondering.
37 million. Wow. That's a lot more than ChatGPT told me.
Who are capable of buying it.
Who are capable of buying it.
Now, I'm not saying they will, but they're capable of buying.
How many do you think you'll sell?
The president thinks we can sell 1 million.
So
That's $5 trillion.
So he said he already sold 1,000. So a million? A million honestly doesn't seem like that much. Like if you could pay $5 million now, paying $5 million for something is pretty substantial. You got to have that 5 million liquid. But I'm one point that I don't think he makes in this one of the, I don't think he said it in one of the clips that I have here, but he mentioned how Friedberg said something about how like kind of like the taxi medallions, he expects that there to be like a sort of economy that builds up around them where they'll finance their gold card, and maybe there's like a market around it. And Lutnik just kind of he just sort of didn't even acknowledge him when he said it. So I don't know if he just wasn't interested in the idea or if he was like, no, they wouldn't allow that. I don't know. But yeah, like this alone, if they get like an outsized response on something like this, then you're talking a massive revenue boost just for this alone. Just changing this alone could generate some billions, even $1 trillion in revenue. It's brilliant. And then this one here, he's talking about Social Security, and yeah, I'll just play it.
No one's ever been fired, ever, for sending money to the wrong place. People send it on purpose. I'm not saying everybody sends it on purpose. I'm saying there are some people who send it on purpose. Yeah. Some people who are complete morons, and an enormous number of people who work for the government who are awesome. I mean, amazing people, right? But what percentage? Okay, if there's 5.9 million people who work for the government, you're like, wow, that's like so many, and we're paying them all. And how many do you really need? I mean, if the answer is 2 million, wow. And we could talk about how we understand it and how we're going to retrain society for the AI industrial revolution is coming, which is going to create the greatest set of jobs and greatest set of growth ever. Okay, but then we can talk about that. Yeah. But the key is stop sending money to the wrong place so we can make sure we can always defend sending money to the right place. I would never allow, if I can stand it, to not pay somebody who retired at 65 their benefits. Yeah, I find it disgusting when we're the richest country in the world and some politician says, in order to save Social Security, rather than getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, we should move it to 70.
Yeah.
How about no? How about we're rich enough to give people the benefit of the bargain of being a great American? But let's put great people in charge.
That's really well said.
I just love his spirit. Like, we're rich, bitch. Let's act like it. So then this here is the longest clip I'm going to play for you. This is them talking about the sovereign wealth fund strategy. So this is the whole conversation. Howard describes his 30-plus year relationship with President Trump and his road from business to politics, running Trump's transition team, the DOGE origin story, what it's like working for Trump, balancing the budget and fixing GDP, tariff history and strategy and global trade, Trump cards, building better government software and AI thoughts, and then the sovereign wealth fund strategy. And they wrapped up talking about how his family reacted to his new role. And those comments are where he's at his best when he's talking about this stuff. He's such a compelling guy to listen to. And he says all of the right stuff. Again, I'm a little skeptical about some of his motivations, but he definitely knows how to say all of the right stuff. So here's him talking about the sovereign wealth fund.
It's coming. We know what it is. Please, God, go put it in, because we need to have it in. Okay, we need America to live.
Great segue. Let's sort of segue now to a couple things that we can enjoin together in this concept. Crypto, obviously, Bitcoin. You guys announced the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But broadly speaking, you also announced sort of this idea of the sovereign wealth fund. Yes. Can we talk about that? Sort of what is the vision behind that? How do you want that to be executed? How do you think it should be run? What assets are on the table? What assets and strategies should never be on the table? How are you thinking about it?
the greatest customer in the world, the United States government, the most powerful, the greatest customer, buys stuff. We walk in, we're going to buy, here's the example I like to use. We're going to buy 2 billion COVID vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
When we buy it, Pfizer and Moderna stocks are going to triple. They're going to triple. So then we say everyone's going to have this vaccine. If I were, after Jared Kushner negotiated the best deal he could, if Howard Lutnick walked in the room, Howard Lutnick would say, what do you think, 20% warrants?
Right.
20% warrants?
Right.
Right? What? So we'd make $50 billion. Off of who? Nobody. Right. We didn't take from anybody. We didn't do it. Okay, the shareholders of Pfizer, who we've just tripled them with our order.
Right.
Now, how many of my customers in my life have required that from me? All of them.
All of them.
Like this isn't like, oh, Howard, this is the greatest new idea ever. This is just
business.
Proper. So I don't view risk of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I view the first couple of years of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, or Scott Bessent and I, making money Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Say, well, but you can't invest and lose. Don't you lose money? No. Why? Well, if I have Big Daddy of the United States of America behind me, right? And I'll give you an example. We buy missiles episodically. Launch a missile, buy a missile. Launch a missile, buy some missiles, right? The people who sell us missiles have bad quarterly earnings or good quarterly earnings, but they're episodic.
Yeah.
Here we go. I will sign a contract with you, 10-year contract, cancel it at the end of 5 years, to buy X amount of missiles, and I'll pay you quarterly. Then they can take that contract, they can go finance it. Yeah. Their financing costs go, their earnings are steady, and their multiple improves, and their stock doubles.
Goes up. Yeah.
And I say, in exchange for that reasonable thought, how about a little warrants?
Right.
And
give me a little stock, just for people that don't understand. Give me some stock. Give me a little bit of your stock.
But don't give me some stock. Just give me the upside. If I help your stock go up,
just a little bit,
I get to share it. And you know what I do with that money?
Wet my beak a little bit.
And then I take the money for the United States of America, and I put it into the Social Security system of the United States of America.
Okay,
so what he's describing here. First of all, it's funny he mentions the vaccines. He's got another comment on vaccines coming here toward the end of the clip that is also very interesting. But what he's describing here, this is exactly what Stormy was describing on the conversation with Will Tanner that we were talking about here last week. So when he's saying warrants, he's talking about options. It's options to purchase stock at a certain price. So if I'm the government and I'm going to have this contract with you, that when you get this contract, it's going to massively increase the valuation of your company because you have all of this production you have to deliver. Then when we sign that contract, I'm going to get options to purchase stock in your company when the valuation increases to X%. And then that wealth now gets placed in the sovereign wealth fund, so that the government's assets increase when the company's assets increase. This is the most pro-business move that we've seen an American government take in an extremely long time. This ties the success and prosperity of the government to the success and prosperity of the people. And these are the sorts of ways that we can capitalize on the existing assets that we already have.
And then all of a sudden, right? So the Social Security system says it's $4 trillion in the hole.
Yeah.
Okay. If we cut the waste, fraud, and abuse out, it becomes 1.5 trillion. And by the way, Frank Bisignano, the greatest executive, the greatest payments executive ever to join the U.S. government, is about to get confirmed and take over the Social Security system. Okay? Frank ran Fiserv, $120 billion public payments company. And when Donald Trump asked him in his interview, can you handle Social Security? It's 1.3 trillion a year. He goes, well, see, I handle 500 billion a day. So Wednesday. Right? And he goes, my whole life, all I worry about is getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. That's all I care about every single day. $5, $2, $1. He goes, this is going to be the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a Donald Trump administration. This is something that's another planet. Now, of course, I recruit Frank and, I get to have my piece in the game. Yeah. But if we get rid of a couple $100 billion, then it's only $1.4 trillion in the hole. We make $1.4 trillion.
Yeah.
And that baby is finished forever.
Is the Sovereign Wealth Fund a balance sheet for Social Security? Does Social Security become more than what it is today? Does it over time offer bigger, greater benefits? And is it basically a pool that holds equities? Historically, and we talked about this on our show, it's only ever held treasuries, but it's really kind of a fake treasury. It's got 2.7 trillion today, but if we bought the S&P in 1971, when we went off the gold standard with the cash flows that have come in and gone out of Social Security, we'd have a $15 trillion interest in the S&P today.
Yeah, but you'd have that would have had you have Donald Trump be the president the whole time, which is not a thing.
Right.
Okay.
But is that the objective? Is that the Sovereign Wealth Fund is basically for the benefit of retirees in this country, and it becomes like a sovereign wealth fund that
we have a $36 trillion budget deficit. Debt to the United States of America, and we have a budget deficit of $2 trillion. So Donald Trump wants to knock down the $2 trillion, and then he's focused on the $36 trillion, which the Social Security is part of it.
Yeah.
So how he allocates it, he was elected president of the United States. I was not.
Yeah.
Okay. I like the Social Security idea because it's really easy to explain to people and sell to people, and so they understand it. But the fact is that it's the same money if I put it in Social Security or I put it on the debt of the United States of America. And I'm going to let Donald Trump make that decision. You know why? Because it's all his idea and none of it's not mine. So he will decide that, okay? And he will play it his way.
Right.
But Scott Bessent and I will make more than $1 trillion for the United States of America during our term, which is pretty darn cool, right? And we'll use that, and if that reduces our debt, right? But that's not the policy of how we're going to balance the budget. We're going to balance the budget. Trump card, tariffs, getting rid of scams. I'll give you a scam example. Every boat you've ever seen, like every single cruise ship, super tanker, container ship, you've never seen an American flag, ever. In fact, you ever think about the flag you've actually seen? All of you would say, I have no idea what that flag is.
BVI.
Like, why is it some flag I never heard of?
Yeah, exactly.
Liberia is number one.
Yeah.
And you go, what? No one even knows where Liberia is. Because the answer is, it's a flag of convenience. They sell the flag for like 10 grand. Like, they literally, here, you can have a flag. And you pay no tax. So what happens is, a cruise ship in the United States of America picks up American passengers, goes in the Caribbean, comes back to America, and treats the port as an expense. And all the profits are made in the Caribbean where it pays no tax. That's what I call a tax scam.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfair to America. We're going to fix that in America. We're going to try to fix a whole bunch of these tax scams. Ireland is my favorite. The country of Ireland.
Remember that Ireland has featured prominently in the news here just recently, with the current leadership of Ireland coming over to the White House and meeting with the president and the vice president, and then Conor McGregor showing up.
Last year had a $60 billion budget surplus. So we lose $2 trillion and they make 60. You'd say, Ireland? What do they do? Oh, they have all of our IP for our great tech.
All the tech companies.
All our great tech companies and great pharma companies.
And pharma, yeah.
They all put it there because it's low tax.
Yeah.
And they don't pay us. They pay them. So that's got to end. So when those things end, tariffs, Trump card, getting rid of tax scams to get fair tax. That's my trillion. Elon's got to do his trillion. So whenever I see him getting off the rails, he and I go out and we have a strong conversation together that you've got to do your trillion. So you got to focus not on small potatoes.
Right.
Big, 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 big. I need you to do your side of the trillion. Now, as it turns out, I'm going to do more than $1 trillion because I'm me. Elon's probably going to do more than $1 trillion because he's him. And then what we're going to do Our objective is to smash down the Internal Revenue Service and change America. And then imagine America. This is just an imagination moment, okay? We have a balanced budget in the United States. We're starting to knock down the deficit of America. We can cut tax, and we have a gold card, a Trump card that you can come to America. Which entrepreneur have you ever met who wouldn't buy one and wouldn't start building businesses when they think the tax rate here is going to come down and eventually it's going to come down to 20% and eventually it's going to come down to 15%? You won't be able to find a plot of land in America.
You know what I predict will happen? I predict just like in the medallion industry for taxi cabs, there'll be a financing industry that'll build up around these gold cards or these Trump cards. So that great entrepreneurs, great executives will be able to finance their purchase along with someone getting venture capital interest or equity interest in their business. That
we're going to take that money. We'll sell them every year.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll knock down our budget deficit, and then eventually, right? If Donald Trump is right, and ultimately we can sell 7 million cards, you realize there is no debt in America.
Right.
No debt in America is $1 trillion a year in debt coverage.
Right.
$1 trillion a year in debt coverage. You know what that changes? That changes the Internal Revenue Service. You start to rethink, and I just want to remind you, right? We are the richest country on earth. Our balance sheet is $500 trillion. I give you an example. What's the court system of America worth? Right? What's it worth? Well, how can NVIDIA be worth $3 trillion without a court system that protects it?
Right.
It's no such thing. Right. So just everything about us
the
is
infrastructure
so awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what happens? We actually we get beaten upon it. We actually believe it.
Yeah, you could ask Doug Burgum about how undervalued a lot of our real estate is in this country and the potential for it.
Think about it. Biden closed 635 million acres. This is electing Joe Biden head of Saudi Arabia, and he closes the oil wells.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Saudi Arabia falls off the face of the earth broke. Like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we care about Americans.
Yeah.
Let's make Americans' lives great.
Howard.
We want clean water. We want clean air.
Yeah.
Okay. We do it better than everybody else. But if we don't, here's the one, like the hypocrisy, right? We won't mine lithium in America to make a battery.
Yeah.
But so the Australians mine it with coal, and it's messy because they do it they do it messy. By the way, we breathe the air in 3.4 days, but who's counting? Right? Then we take it, we put it on a truck. We put the truck and put it in a super tanker. We drive the super tanker that pollutes the living heck out of the world across 12,000 miles of ocean, puts it in a truck and gives it to Airline to make an electric car. Why don't we mine the lithium in Nevada?
Right.
And by the way, we'd mine it cleaner, right?
And by the way, it's not just lithium. Almost anything that we could possibly conceive of needing over the next couple of decades exists in the continental United States. We just have had no incentive or no structure regulatory-wise that enables the development of it,
we need to care for us. Make America, America first. How about, there's another way to say it.
While maintaining clean
Americans first.
While maintaining environmental standards.
Look, we're never going to do something that's not like 100 times cleaner than everybody else, because we care about clean water and clean air. There's none of us who don't care about clean water and clean air. But like someone gives you a pill and says, this will save you. And then you look at the statistic and it saves 1 in a million people. And you'd say, why am I taking this pill? You'd say, well, it could save your life. You'd say, yeah, but it's like 1 in a million, right? That's not logical, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
There's a regulation that's the right thing.
Yeah.
And there's a regulation that's the 1 in a million pill. Right. Like, why do we give a baby a hepatitis B vaccine? Do you realize we have a brand new baby and we hold it up and we give it a hepatitis B vaccine? You realize the only way you get hepatitis B is from unprotected sex or a needle? Right. Like, why are we giving them to a baby? Like, why? And you know what it is? You know what the answer is? Corruption. That someone in the government got paid to put that in the rules. And because there's no justification. I haven't met a medical doctor who says, hepatitis B vaccines on brand new babies makes sense. Because, by the way, you know what the worst part is? They only last 10 years. You need a booster in 10 years. So the baby's going to be 10. Right. We've got to really be fair to ourselves and be fair to Americans. And I think we can be. And I think that's why I'm so excited. That's why our cabinet is so excited. That's why it's so much fun to work for Donald Trump, because I am just speaking from his playbook, right? Because if you had met me before he said, will you help me? And he went out to dinner with me and said, so tell me about government. I'd say, government? You mean I pay them taxes? Like, that's it.
Are you having the time of your life?
Most fun ever, because I have every idea either gets blown up or shot down. Okay? Meaning I come up with lots of ideas and he says, nah, too complex. And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
But when I come up with the External Revenue Service and he says, great idea, and then he speaks of it in his inaugural address, right? It's his idea.
Yeah.
Because I can't do anything with it.
Howard, last question as we wrap. Tell us about your family.
All right. We're getting kind of long in the tooth on the show here, and I've still got a little bit to go through, so I was just letting it play. I definitely didn't expect to get a Howard Lutnick weighs in on the Hep B vaccine segment in the show there when I was listening to it. But yeah, I'll just say he's Rob P said the oozing slime is getting to me a little bit. Yeah, like that's like he's very he is an absolute just an archetype. He plays his role very, very well. And you know what? I'm listening to him talking about how cruise ships are using the Liberian flag, which per John Conrad on Twitter was was something that was set up by the CIA directly to get around the ability of America to maintain its own borders and its own infrastructure. But I listened to him talking about that, and I'm like, you know what? We've got Jews on our side who are loyal to the president, who are hand rubbing about the idea of going and taxing everyone else on behalf of America. And I'd rather that than the other way around. The giga hand rubber. Josh Ham says, I could see how he sounds smarmy, but that's just Brooklyn Bankster. Yeah. That's like, he's smarmy, but he's authentic too. That's kind of the thing with these guys, is that they're extremely authentic. So he mentioned the minerals there at the end. And there's two very interesting things that dropped in the last couple of days from the White House directly regarding minerals. First, there is this executive order, the Giga Merchant. This executive order, immediate measures to increase American mineral production. I'm not going to read through the entire thing here, but I'll post a link in it'll be available on the Substack or on the podcast version of this in the show notes. This was the executive order, and then this was a fact sheet released to go along with it. President Donald J. Trump takes immediate action to increase American mineral production. So I just popped this into Grok and said, first of all, to summarize the executive order. Whoops, hit the wrong button. Fenris on Bounce says, Owen Benjamin once said, you want to have a couple loyal Jays on your team because they will pick over your enemy's bones for you. Yes, exactly. We've got our Giga Jew, we've got our Giga Merchant. So I said, summarize this EO. So the executive order titled Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production, issued on March 20, 2025 by Trump, aims to bolster domestic mineral production to enhance national and economic security. This is absolute, like, the best news you could possibly have given to one of our regulars in the King Pill Discord. You know who you are. It highlights the United States' vast mineral resources and their critical role in transportation, infrastructure, defense, and technology, noting that excessive federal regulations have diminished domestic production, increasing reliance on foreign nations, including hostile powers. The order declares this dependency a threat to national security and mandates immediate action. So the president is invoking emergency military powers because of a threat to national security to motivate and accelerate the process to increase American mineral production. Key provisions include 1. Expediting permits. Agencies must identify mineral production projects with pending applications within 10 days and prioritize those that can be approved quickly, streamlining permitting processes. Number 2 is priority projects. The National Energy Dominance Council will designate priority projects for fast tracking and transparency on the permitting dashboard. Now, real quick, the National Energy Dominance Council is something that was established by executive order on February 14th of this year. And as a reminder, it is the membership. It is chaired by the Secretary of the Interior, which is, I believe, Doug Burgum. He's the Secretary of the Interior. Secretary of Energy will serve as vice chair, and then it also includes secretaries of state, treasury, defense, agriculture, commerce, transportation, the attorney general, the administrator of the EPA, director of OMB, United States Trade Representative, deputy chief of staff for policy, assistants to the president for economic policy, national security affairs, domestic policy, and then the chairman of the councils on environmental quality and economic advisor, and then the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, and then the heads of such other executive departments and agencies as the president may from time to time designate. So it's basically the entire cabinet. Number 3 here is the Defense Production Act utilization. The Secretary of Defense has delegated authority under the DPA to waive certain requirements and facilitate mineral production projects, while the CEO of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, the DFC, can use DPA powers for loans supporting strategic mineral production. Number 4 is land use. The Secretary of the Interior must identify federal lands with mineral deposits within 10 days and prioritize them for mining, amending land use plans as needed. I think 10 days is the shortest window that I've seen on any of these executive orders for any of these sort of initiatives that are being, there's been a couple of like 14 days. There's been a lot of 30 days, 45 days, 90 days. I think 10 days is the shortest I've seen. And then Mining Act recommendations. Within 30 days, the NEDC, the National Energy Dominance Council, the NEDC and the Office of Legislative Affairs will propose legislative updates to the Mining Act of 1872 regarding waste management. And then finally, capital investment. The Secretary of Defense will connect private capital with viable mineral projects via the National Security Capital Forum. So this is part of the privatizing the government. So securing private capital, and this is something that Secretary of Defense Hegseth is going to be tasked with. The order emphasizes reducing reliance on foreign minerals, creating jobs, and strengthening national security by restoring U.S. mineral production dominance, leveraging existing legal authorities and emergency declarations like the National Energy Emergency of January 20, 2025. So he declares the National Energy Emergency, which is part of what creates the pretext for him to be able to issue this executive order. So then I asked Grok, is there anything new or worth mentioning in this fact sheet that is not included in that EO? And it said that they share the same core objectives and actions, but the fact sheet provides some additional context and details not explicitly spelled out in the EO itself. Here's a breakdown of the noteworthy elements. So the first thing is broader context on national security and past actions. The fact sheet emphasizes President Trump's prior actions during his first term, such as implementing a 2017 federal strategy for critical minerals and issuing 5 presidential determinations in 2019 to bolster rare earth element production. It also mentions the 2020 National Emergency Declaration to expand domestic mining, providing a broader narrative of continuity in Trump's policy approach, which the EO does not cover. It lists specific mineral examples, including critical minerals, uranium, copper, potash, gold. Gold is now designated a critical mineral, and any other element, compound, or material as determined by the chair of the NEDC, such as coal. The EO itself does not provide this list, leaving the scope of minerals more general, except for referencing the Mining Act of 1872 and critical mineral deposits. Then it also highlights economic and security risks. The fact sheet underscores the economic and security risks of U.S. reliance on foreign minerals, noting that demand for critical minerals is the gold rush of the 21st century due to their role in emerging technologies. It also states that the U.S. imports a significant portion of its minerals, creating vulnerabilities. The Ambler Access Project. The fact sheet references a separate EO advancing the Ambler Access Project, a 211-mile industrial road in northwest Alaska for mining copper, zinc, and other materials. linking it to the broader mineral production strategy. This project is not mentioned in the EO and mineral production, indicating it's a complementary but distinct action. The fact sheet also specifies that additional mineral production projects will be considered for a Fast 41 status to streamline permitting, referring to the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act's permitting dashboard. The EO mentions the permitting dashboard and transparency project, but does not explicitly use the term Fast 41. So expediting permitting processes for all of this. And then coordination with private industry. The fact sheet states that the Trump administration will, quote, coordinate with private industry to ensure a stable and resilient domestic supply chain for critical materials. A stable and resilient domestic supply chain for critical materials. Music to my ears. While the EO tasks the Secretary of Defense with facilitating private capital investment via the National Security Capital Forum, the fact sheet's broader wording suggests a more comprehensive industry partnership beyond just capital pairing. As Josh Ham says here, read private carousel for infrastructure and mining projects. Those loans will be guaranteed by the federal government. Companies will pay royalties as norm and options referenced earlier for wealth fund, aka printing money. And then there will be land lease programs where the lease fees that are paid to the federal government to lease the land, those will go into the sovereign wealth fund. As you mentioned before, warrants in some of these companies. So they're securing this private capital in return for options basically on their stock that were they to explode, then the sovereign wealth fund is going to be built out through that. And then we're going to control our own natural resource market. And it's going to, this is all part of this creating we already have the most valuable consumer market in the world. We're going to be walling it off, paying people to participate in it. And then for the companies that are here, they're going to have a massively lower tax burden, and they're not going to have to compete with all the foreign companies. So they have no reason to go extend outside. They're already in the best consumer market in the world, and they've been guaranteed access to it and not having to compete with everyone else. And then actually, you know what? There was something else that I wanted to include here that I didn't have. So let me pull this up real quick. This is from, was it briefings and was it remarks? Articles. Week 9 wins. President Trump puts America first. There was a couple of these that I wanted to highlight. Egg prices down. Gas has declined for the 4th straight week. Home sales rose 4.2% in February, far surpassing expectations. Industrial production surged to its highest ever recorded level. Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act. FBI captured a key senior leader of MS-13. Customs and Border Protection awarded the first border wall construction contract of President Trump's 2nd term. NVIDIA announced it will invest hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 4 years in its U.S.-based manufacturing operations. Jensen said having the support of an administration who cares about the success of this industry and not allowing energy to be an obstacle is a phenomenal result for AI in the U.S. Johnson & Johnson announced a new $55 billion investment over the next 4 years in U.S.-based manufacturing, research and development, and technology. Prepack, a Canadian furniture manufacturer, announced it will move production from Canada to the U.S. Following a meeting with President Trump, the United Arab Emirates committed to a $1.4 trillion U.S. investment framework over the next decade. Talk about that here in just a second. Honda announced it will procure U.S.-made batteries for its hybrid vehicles. And Audi said it is considering moving production to the U.S. to avoid tariffs. Also, Trump signed an executive order to officially begin the process of closing the Department of Education. After more than 4 decades and over $3 trillion spent on education with virtually nothing to show for it, Trump secured the safe return of NASA astronauts who were stranded in space for 9 months by the previous administration. Continued its pursuit of peace in Ukraine. Trump held a successful bilateral call with Putin, and then held a call with Zelensky as well. It talks about Iran. Trump signed a repeal of the Biden-era natural gas tax into law. Trump signed an executive order expanding U.S. production of critical minerals to reduce reliance on China. Department of Energy made its 5th liquefied natural gas-related approval since President Trump took office and reversed the Biden-era ban. The Department of Energy approved a loan disbursement for the Palisades nuclear plant as the Trump administration leverages all sources to ensure affordable, reliable, secure energy. The Department of the Interior initiated actions to unleash Alaska's untapped natural resource potential following President Trump's executive orders. The Department of the Interior implemented permanent pay increases for wildland firefighters. Our boys getting paid. Department of Health and Human Services announced Operation Stork Speed to expand options for safe, reliable, nutritious infant formula for American families. It's called breast milk. The Department of Health and Human Services unveiled an online searchable database providing a list of containment levels in human foods. Department of Veteran Affairs announced it will stop covering sex change surgeries. Department of Agriculture announced new action to streamline pork and poultry processing by eliminating outdated administrative requirements that slow production and add unnecessary costs. Department of Education launched a civil rights investigation into the Illinois Department of Education, Chicago Public Schools, and Deerfield Public Schools over allegations they violated Title IX by requiring girls to share school locker rooms with boys. Department of HUD announced it will streamline its processes to deliver disaster assistance more quickly after catastrophic events. Small Business Administration announced an agency-wide reorganization to return to its founding mission by reducing its workforce to pre-pandemic levels and ending the expansive social policy agenda of the Biden administration. I also saw that the SBA is going to be taking over student loans when the DOE is shut down. Trump unveiled the F-47, the world's first sixth-generation fighter jet. I'm going to need my my fighter jet bros to fill me in on this. I don't know anything about it. Don't know. I couldn't weigh in on it if you asked me to. An executive order streamlining emergency response to empower states and communities to work quickly and efficiently with their federal counterparts. There's a theme here. Efficiency. Empowering local districts. President Trump signed an executive order directing agency heads to grant full prompt access of unclassified records, data, and systems to federal officials in order to identify and eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. He signed an executive order consolidating federal procurement to eliminate waste, inefficiencies, and duplication. That's a big one. He signed an executive order to strengthen the suitability and fitness of the federal workforce, and he ordered the release of tens of thousands of previously redacted files related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. That is a rather busy week. So, the UAE deal, this is what we'll finish up with here, because I got to get over into the King Pill Discord for watching The Apprentice tonight. We're watching the seasons from 2004, the original season of The Apprentice. We're watching it so we can reminisce and see what our president was like before he was our president. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. We'll be getting started here in it'll probably be 9:45-ish now, given where we're ending. But just go over, join the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com, and I'll be in there so we can watch it and chat and hang out for a little while. Hit the like button, folks. We got 112 still watching and 96 likes. 109 is only 13 likes away, which means 110 is only 14 likes away. 14, indeed. So the UAE will invest $1.4 trillion in the U.S. over 10 years, according to an agreed investment framework developed in connection with a visit by National Security Advisor Sheikh Tahnoun bin Zayed and a top UAE delegation to the White House. It will significantly increase the UAE's existing investments in the U.S. economy in AI infrastructure, semiconductors, energy, and American manufacturing. The UAE delegation included the heads of major UAE sovereign wealth funds and corporations. Under terms of the framework, UAE Investment Fund ADQ, along with U.S. partner Energy Capital Partners, announced a $25 billion U.S.-focused initiative to invest in energy infrastructure and data centers. XRG, the international investment arm of UAE state oil company ADNOC, also announced its commitment to support U.S. natural gas production and exports with an investment in the next decade LNG export facility in Texas. And it's I have a feeling that this guy didn't get yelled at for not wearing a tie. Turns out if you're bringing $1.4 trillion to the country, you can dress however you want to. And then, interestingly, what happened at the same time as this agreement was being sorted out, crypto czar David Sachs holds talks with top UAE official to discuss cryptocurrency. So many things are happening. So many things. The economic boom, the boom in productivity and wage growth and just overall wealth in the country after the next several months of turmoil is going to be next level, a new American golden age. Now's your chance, boys. Get yourself positioned. Get yourself ready for it. If you've been thinking about changing industries, maybe you're not in an industry that's directly connected to this world. The ranging from mining, which is really all the trades are associated with that, are all adjacent to it. And then all the way across to AI and automation and manufacturing and supply chains and logistics. And if you're not already plugged into that industry and you've been kind of thinking like you might be time to change careers or something like that, now is the time to be making that move, getting yourself positioned for that, because there is an absolute shitload of money being directed into the United States specifically for infrastructure and energy and mining and manufacturing and it's the reindustrialization of America is underway. So don't get too distracted with stories of Tesla terrorism or whatever other thing that might be sucking away your attention. Be aware of it. Know about it. Make sure you don't get yourself on the wrong end of something like that. But there are great opportunities coming for our guys to make a bag. So be ready for it. Don't get caught with your dick in your hand, not prepared, blindsided, because this rocket's going to take off, and you want to make sure that you're strapped in when it does. All right, guys, that's all I got. Go to kingpill.com, go join the Kingpill Discord, and I'll be in there in just a little bit here so we can watch The Apprentice and hang out and chit-chat for a while. So if you've enjoyed the live chat experience, then just head on over to the Kingpill Discord and keep it going. I'll be in there in just a little bit. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Follow me on Twitter @RealKingPilled. And I will be back on Monday with another episode of the Astrolabe. Let's see some hooks. See some hooks in the chat. Get some Trumps in the chat. Leave a comment afterwards. Give me a Hulk. Give me a Trump in the chat afterwards to help us battle the algorithm that's suppressing us, that's holding us down. And for now, I will leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough.